started here now. Welcome everybody on live stream to the 19th Knowledge Seekers Workshop. And we're here with Mr. Keshe and some of the knowledge seekers of the Spaceship Institute. I'm not there with them, but we are here virtually with them. And they are in a little town in northern Italy, and coming to us through Skype and through GoToMeeting and through the live stream. So let's just get right at it, and I'm going to pass it over to Mr. Keshe and the knowledge seekers from the Spaceship Institute.
Good morning, good evening, good night, wherever you are. Have a nice lunch, whatever you're doing around the world. Today is, we have a little bit to tell you, but from now on we start, as we said last time, teaching or explaining the technology and the science behind different aspects of the Keshe Foundation's work, especially on the health side. In the past few months, we've been literally totally geared up to the energy and building up the reactors and building up the nanomaterials. And one of the things which we have not put much attention to is the human body and biology of biological effect and how we look into it. That some of the things we do looks strange, but in fact is the most natural way to do it. Before we get into it, whole thing, there are a few things I know a lot of you want to know or would like to have some information about. After next Thursday, the Institute breaks up for summer holidays. So till next Thursday morning we have the pre-breakup for our summer holidays. But if it's okay and you want to carry on, during the 4 weeks that the foundation is on the what do you call it, summer period, we still carry on with workshops. Whoever wants to join around the world, we still keep the same process going. Most probably, if it's okay with our Bulgarian group, because I'll be in Bulgaria working and teaching those 2 weeks, the first 2 weeks, as workshops, which is done with help of Elia and the Keshe Foundation in Bulgaria. We will run the workshops with our colleagues and scientists directly live from Bulgaria. Then you can ask questions in respect to what they do and what they were up to, or what we can do with them. The other news, which I know you want to know, what happened with the world religious leaders. We have had a wonderful sessions. The sessions, we were expecting to have a session just on Monday, but the sessions started literally on Saturday, whole day, and Sunday, and it was literally finalizing the last bits on Monday. So it was a 3-day deep thoughts, learning, understanding. A lot of things became clear in what needed to be understood in respect to different kind of beliefs and what they understand and what they expect from the foundation in respect to our ethos of our work, and in a way educating people that they understand the new changes. One of the points which has risen is to educate people first with the science, that they can see the change. So we will announce opening up 2 most probable new universities or institutes around the world from the outcome of last week. This should be finalized in the coming weeks, and we announce it. Once institute is already pre-agreed, and 2 more could be open for discussion. What we understand and what is the outcome of the meetings in the last week is that literally you're a Christian, you're a Muslim, you're a Jew, you are Hindu, whatever you are, from now on you can go to each other's temple and pray to one God. So the difference is not the house, the difference is what sits in the heart. Somebody doesn't like what we said. So we, hello, are we there?
Yes, we can hear you.
No problem. So what we said, accepting up to one creator is more or less of the opinion, because what we say in the Abrahamsm of return of the Christ, or Mehdi in Islam, or whatever, does not exist in the culture of the East, in Hinduism and the rest. So we, in bringing all the beliefs into one thing in so many ways, we came to understanding that the house of worships in any name or shape from now on is the same. And so names of religions become irrelevant when you go as a Christian to a mosque to pray. And this rang a beautiful tune with my ear. As a lot of you would know, I have a half Jewish background, and some 15 years ago I met my great uncle in Tel Aviv before he dies. And he explained to me, my grandfather, being a very highly devoted Jewish man, used to go to Karbala and say the Islamic prayer in the mosque with such a good voice that they were all puzzled. How come a Jewish guy knows the Islamic prayer so well? Because we used to be one. And so we are back on the same track. And from now on, what we say, whatever ways of belief you have in any shape or name, you can pray in one house. There is no division between the houses of God anymore. So if you're a Muslim, go today to a church and say the prayer with the Catholics or the Protestants. And if you're a Jew, go to a mosque and pray with the rest, the way my grandfather used to do. So we see a great step forward with this move. And the second meeting of the World Religious Leaders is set for 29th of August. And a new invitation goes out to the world religious leaders to participate if they want to, or they can send delegations as they did for this meeting. You've got to go a step further. It's not easy to move in such a way for politicians and or the religious leaders. It brings a lot of problems for them and the position they are. And in so many ways, we don't talk to no prophet, and we don't talk to no priest or religious leaders to get to God. In this way we see the God through our own existence and the behavior of ourselves. So you're quite welcome to come with me and pray in a mosque or a church or a synagogue or a temple anywhere in the world. I've done this for years, and now we see it, a lot of people coming around the same way. In respect to the development of the Keshe Foundation reactors, we have reached a critical point in the last week. I have asked total silence by the knowledge seekers because of the critical position we are in. No pictures have asked to be posted, and no information to be given out till we decide in according with the condition we achieve. And at the same time, we have to respect, we are in Italy, we have to respect the Italian government's agreements we made. Any announcement regarding any development in the space will be done through the Italian government in conjunction with the foundation, or we inform them they can join us, or we have to respect the place we are and we're testing our materials in. But I have to inform you, the knowledge seekers have reached pre-flight condition. So that's all we're going to put on the table. And then no pictures, nothing will be added from the laboratory till we announce us if we achieve it, and if we don't achieve it, you don't hear nothing. On the other hand, the next hopefully Thursday we should be able to show you the cup of life. It's in the process of getting done. We've gone into the cups were manufactured for us are very simple, but the way we wanted it, and now they're going through the process. So hopefully by next Thursday, I'll give the pictures, the cups to be photographed by the knowledge seekers and posted. The what do you call it, samples has cost us a ridiculous amount of money because they had to produce it. But I'm sure once we reproduction, it won't be such a high expenses. At the moment, it's something like €12 for one cup.
Did you say the cup of life, Mr. Keshe?
Yeah, the water of life. Yeah, the cup which we produce that you can drink from to receive all the energies which you need. As we explained a couple of weeks ago, we produced the initial one, and the cup has been produced now. I received about 15 of them this week, and now by next week we should be able to show you, and we can put it out for trial to see it delivers what it says. What we have come to understand, a single cup cannot produce the spectrum of the fields the body needs, so we have produced 3 different cups. So the combination of 3 should achieve what we are looking for daily, what do you call it, at least part of the daily energy we need.
Is that something that will be available to the public, or is this just a trial for certain people that have been selected?
It'll be available to public, but we have to run the test in a secure way. Otherwise, people think they can do it and they can harm themselves. It's very simple, but it has to be done the correct way.
So it could be months or whatever before an actual public thing will be introduced, available for people to purchase or whatever.
You can buy it. You can purchase. Yeah, you can purchase it from the foundation website, most probably, or you can produce it yourself. It depends what you want to do.
Okay.
As I told you last week, there's going to be a lot of changes, and the changes are coming in a very smooth way. As you know, when you buy a book, you go to Keshe Power Cell Technologies. The purchasing of the book. Keshe Power Technology was set up by Dirk and me. Actually, it was initiation from Dirk. He set it up with about 4 or 5 years ago to start production of the what you call day and night solar cells. And we had usually when you set a company up, it takes maximum few days to get a BTV number or a tax number for it, and then you can go into production or use the company. As you know, we had a problem with the Belgian authorities that they were trying to silence the technology. It took us 3 years to get the BTV number. Any excuse they could put in front of us, they did. So we could not produce, or we were distracted from the path of delivering what Dirk and I were setting up to do. I can announce today that the production of the cells, the day and night torch and the panel has started as of this week. The manufacturers have started the pre-production, and hopefully within a matter of a week or so we should be able to offer materials like the torch, which you don't need anything for, you can run it. They're going to run the multiple numbers of LED light from the source, and in the coming weeks the Keshe Foundation technical team, which is around us, will produce the first what do you call, like a sun panels. These we are looking at like 1 or 2 centimeter square centimeter and up to 1 meter by 1 meter, which we reckon should produce quite a large amount of energy. There is no technical problem as far as they could see it. Our technical team, we had long meetings this week about it. The first what you call ground units will be available if they do their jobs out within coming a week or 2. You have seen the principle of this work with the torch I show in demonstrations, and we showed it in Tuscany. So the foundation has gone into commercialization of the technology through Italian companies. We do not keep any rights or any licenses to it. We show them how to do it. We give them the technology. I give them the circuitry of how to make the circuits for the power generation, and it'll be supplied through them or the Keshe Foundation website. We reckon this should be very, very cheap. The difference between the day and night light system is with the present solar cells, you produce energy during the daytime. These solar cells produce 3 times average of the daylight during the night hours, but you have to be on the ground floor. If you ask me what's going to happen to skyscrapers, I do not know. You have to buy a piece of land and bury it in. You charge your battery much faster. There is a huge difference in this process. In the present LED light solar cells you buy, you charge battery, a rechargeable battery, and that's what gives you the power, and this is part of the most expensive part of the whole process. With the new technology and what we have put into operation, this is done away with. You only add a capacitor, and the discharge from the capacitor dictates how much you have light. So nighttime you have the same as daytime. At nighttime you have more energy because you absorb more energy upcoming from the ground. This changes a lot of things in the energy consumptions, because now with the solar cells you create energy and you send it down the grid, or you use it, or you have to store it in a battery for nighttime. Now with this process, during the night while you're using, you're absorbing more energy. So this is now is going into not a pre-production. They're literally going to see how they're going to mass produce it. It'll be introduced into Italy first by next few weeks, according to what they are going to do with it. On the other hand, the development of the cleaning of the air and the system is in progress. The commercialization of the systems for cleaning water and soil starts as of actually it started a few weeks ago, but it kicks into planning and production in Italy tonight. There are meetings which is set up by the manufacturers and the people who are what you call it, the sponsors for this kind of work, which they initiated it, and they spend thousands and thousands of euros evaluating through different laboratories the functions of the systems. And I've just seen one of their bills is frightening, how much they pay just to test the systems to different laboratories around Italy. So we are more or less, or they are going into producing materials. As I explained to you last time, we are directly involved in the assessment and the process of Fukushima. This has gone a step in the direction of we will deliver and go through the process with the Japanese government appointed people, and we have requested from 2 different governments to join us in this assessment and development. So the foundation as a research organization into energy and nuclear cleanup, we are directly involved, and we announced this to the national governments that is not done as we are doing it, something hidden. And the governmental authorities and agencies are all involved in this process. So this is done on the initiation and backing of the Japanese government and not by the foundation, as they recognize we are one of them, could be, as they say, the only solutions they hope we can find the final results for the water tanks tritium. The governmental report regarding the decontamination of the soil and water is 100% correct and is confirmed. We have a written data, as I explained. Now we are looking at it, how to implement it in Japan, where it'll be done totally through Japanese organization and not Keshe Foundation. There is a ethical and principle, and we have to respect this, that the Japanese want to show that they have found a solution through their companies for their nation, even though they'll be using the technology which is developed by the Keshe Foundation and the way we presented it, and it's been done, and now is independently confirmed by the Nuclear Research Center. So soon we hope that you will start seeing the cleanup in appropriate way in the in Japanese areas of Fukushima and contamination. It's a zero cost, but it's all developments to come up. I moved it. No, it's okay. It's back. I put it there. So this is where we are going at the moment. I think you know the Maltese group, all of you. They tell me that the clinic of the Keshe Foundation in Malta for health will be open in back end of August when we are back from holidays. So once that is done, the Keshe Foundation in conjunction with people in Malta will announce the full detail. That will be a running up, what do you call it, establishment as a clinic that people with different illnesses can approach the clinic around the world for, and it will be handled through Malta. There has been a lot of work put by Maltese Keshe Foundation, especially the two devoted people there, Yo and Manuel. They worked very hard for over a year since I've been to Malta to achieve what they've achieved, and I thank them very much for this, because this, what they've achieved, changes a lot of things in respect to the health application of the Keshe Foundation internationally, and especially in Europe. So once they already announced that they've, what do you call it, they have opened a center in end of August, by end of August, then we announce it directly, and all the health matters will be done through Malta Health Keshe Foundation. There is not much more I can tell you unless you want to know, and then we go into the teaching and what we've done on research. Is there any questions?
Yes, I have a question, Mr. Keshe. It's Vince. The day and night panels, do they have to be put on soil, or can they just be put on the ground, as in on top of concrete or asphalt?
We done tests in Belgium 2-3 years ago. What happened? I made a three-dimensional. You've seen this in Eindhoven. I think we showed it there as well. And it was
the spherical one.
Table. The spherical one. It was on the show, I think, in Tuscany as well. We put it on the table in Tuscany. No, we showed it day and night. No, it was on the table on the left. I think it was on the table. Yeah. This process, because it took me about 3-4 months, and every night I used to get up 2-3 times during the night and measure all the, I think it's 37 or 32 electrodes, absorbing or registering the radiation from 360 degrees. We have observed that the energy from the ground up increases after 7 o'clock p.m. till 5 o'clock a.m. and reduces from 5 o'clock a.m. till 7 p.m. to the factor of 3:1.
Right, but you said that you had that in your garden.
Yes, it was done in the garden, and then what we understood is that you don't need to have it in the roof. And if you've seen the torch, which I show usually for this purpose, when I want to charge it up or I think it's run out of energy, all I do, I put it in my black carrier bags, and then I leave it on the floor for about overnight, and by morning it's totally charged. So this is the beauty of it, because it's not charged in watts and kilowatts. These are all nano watts, which go and deliver whatever they absorb into the capacitor, and you use the capacitor as a source. So how much energy you collect depends on the size of the capacitor you have put into your circuit. So you got to understand the principle. This is what we always try to do here. Understand how the system works, not just to copy it. Then you can make it flat at night and you can put it on the wall like a picture during the day. You can make a beautiful black and white picture because the nano layers, as you know, is black. And that picture on the wall can supply you all the energy you need in the house because it absorbs the energy. We did a test with burying the wires into the building with a nano coating. So in reality, if you can nano coat the wires and change your light to a LED light, the wires embedded in the wall will become the energy supply to the capacitor of the light when you need it. There is no need for the main supply. We're going back to the job of Edison than going to Tesla. We're going back to DC. All the power supplies are DC, and your power supply is the coated wires which you have in your cable. These wires, this coating of the wires can be done when they are in the plastic jacket we done here, and I'm sure you've seen it before. So you don't need to strip anything out of the wall, but if you can extend the process, your wires in the wall can supply or absorb energy from the structure of the wall and deliver it to the capacitor, and when you need the light, you can switch it on. The process that your nano layers work is that they absorb the minutest flow of plasma, not magnetic fields. So the bricks in the wall decay, the plastic in the wall decay, the surrounding environment of the wire decay, and continuously this decay is absorbed by the energy absorbed by the wire and is delivered to the capacitor for the time of need. The process in the open, when you put it outside, why the system changes during the time, is that the surface of the earth is what you call the boundary. When you have a daylight, the magnetic gravitational field of the sun suppresses the fields of the earth back just under below the surface, the physical surface, up to about 20 centimeter below. And when it's a nighttime, the magnetic gravitational field pressure of the sun is away, so the surface of the earth is, the gravitational magnetic field of the earth passes by about 25 centimeter above the physical surface. So in that 25 centimeter surface, you absorb more energy than a meter higher. This is what we've seen in our tests. So the reason you absorb more energy at night is because the light from the gravitational magnetic field of the sun is retracted because you're on the other side away from the sun. So the fields of the earth are allowed to push up themselves to a certain level. So you can make reactors which are half buried in the ground and half above the ground by 50 centimeter. And you can have the benefit of the both. During the day you charge from the top, and during the night you charge from the bottom in the ground.
I think what I was trying to get at, sorry, the point I was trying to get at is that if they were on concrete or that kind of stuff, it doesn't make a difference, because we're talking about plasma, we're not talking about.
But the field of the earth doesn't stop because you put a concrete or you put a steel on. It's irrelevant. But at the same time, you absorb the residual environmental energies too. This, as I was just trying to explain, this explains, if you understand, as in this technology we try to teach all aspects of the knowledge. This should explain to you why in Northern Hemisphere most of the food is a root. There's a root eating, because most of the energy, so in the winter time and most of the summer, very short time in the summer, most of the energy sits at a very high potential just above the 20 centimeter and 20 centimeter above and below. So herbs and roots absorb most of this energy. It's in the right balance for them to absorb. So this explains in so many ways why we don't need to dig 2-meter holes and grow a seed, and it can be done just a few centimeters off the ground, and why the plants, once they shoot just above ground, they grow so rapidly. It's a combination of absorbing the energy from both sides, the earth and the sun, and this is to do with the gravitational magnetic field of the two entities in respect to each other. So you can build systems which are literally surface level, but you can tilt them and put them in any shape or form you need. Pardon? It doesn't make any difference. We've seen it. Yeah, there's a talk that the areas which have a lot of radiation and that kind of radiation, would they work better? This question was asked some time ago from us. This is to be tested. So some areas will produce more energy, and some areas they don't. We know for a fact when we leave there, for example, my bag on the first floor, it hardly gets charged. But when it's on the ground floor, I believe it's on the ground floor, the battery gets charged very, very rapidly. The capacitor goes to a full. I showed this in the presentation in Tuscany. I gave the torch to the organizers for them to hold it to see how powerful it is. In fact, you don't need much to do. The main cost of this system is the capacitor and the LED light, and at the same time the capacitor can last for years and years. It's not a rechargeable battery, so it just saves a lot. It brings the cost down. We are looking at the cost, €1 cost or €2 manufacturing cost, and as we made agreement with the Italian group which are doing it as part of the Keshe Foundation, is every piece has to be manufactured, assembled in Italy to be benefit to the nation. So the Italians will produce it, and hopefully it will be marketed for Italy, and then we can release it to the rest of the world how they want to do it.
Mr. Keshe, does it mean that? Yes, thank you.
Yeah.
Does it mean the bigger the capacity, the bigger the power output?
Yes, you can choose more LED lights. What we did work with Elector magazine a few years ago, when they published the article Just Water. Article they did was the test we did in their basement for evaluation, is as you add the number of LED lights or you add other pieces to the system for load, you don't need any other circuitry, because the system decides how much energy is going to pull through the wires and through the environment which it has. So it comes to a limit that the system tells you this is the limit of what you can take, because I cannot pull more than that from the environment. We did a test about 4 years ago, and if you look at that sphere, which we just talked about it, 3-dimensional sphere, it has a little, what do you call it, a screw on the top. It's got a cap on the top. So we have tested different liquids in this container to see if the liquids make any difference and they increase the power production or not. Only, as far as I can remember, one case we've seen increase in production, and that's with natural water. When we add natural water, we see a slight increase in the power production and in some electrodes. So you can make a system to be in the vacuum or to be in a liquid water, and you will see a slight change, increase in the absorption. But you cannot use chemicals or anything else that can interfere or start producing GANs in the system. So you're tied up to a dry condition for efficiency.
Mr. Keshe, I live on a 4th floor building, and I've set up a number of nano-coated wires, and I've observed that in the morning, the power flow or the energy flow or the resistance of the energy on these wires, in the morning, all of these wires have almost the same level of energy flow. And in the evening, the energy changes as well, but it's almost constant, all of them. So this somehow, I think, fits what you described, that you have different energy level during the day and during the night.
This is what we observed. This you got to evaluate. To understand that these wires do not and cannot be welded or the rest. You cannot solder them, you cannot do anything with them. They are a dynamic magnetic field flow, even though they look as matter, they are magnetic separation, gravitational separation, because nanolayers creates matter and gap, which is between, and in that gap is not empty, is the most strongest magnetic gravitational field flow between the two atoms. So you, as you try to bring the two together, the fields separate each other. It's like two Teflons, they never stick to each other. We cannot, the only way you can increase your power or getting the energy from them is through twisting the wires to each other. And in tests we've done, if you use a meter of the wire or 10 centimeter, it doesn't make any difference in one of the outputs. So it's the number of the pieces you add together in series or parallel if you want to increase your voltage or your amperage. These are the simple electrical things that you all understand. You don't need me to explain. So if you're looking for higher amperage, you set the system in different way, and if you're looking for a higher voltage, you set your system different way. Or you can set the two and add them at the end together in the way you want to do it, or do the switching across. It's very, very simple. It's a child's play, and as I said, for the first time, you don't need these winding batteries that you see they give to Africa, that people have to turn it to charge up, and then when it runs out. The only time you will find out your system is not working is when one of your connections is not connected the right way, that the power does not get into the capacitor. So there is no reason for failure. And in so many ways, as I always say, we dumped all the electrical goods we didn't want in Africa for past years, and all the capacitors are sitting in Africa, so Africans get it directly cheaply. This is the change, course of the change. And then in the near future, we show you how you can produce the same kind of energy extraction from the environment and add it to a water to become food as well. So instead of you eating the apple to get this energy, you put the flow of the material into a water, and you get the same energy from the water, so you don't need food consumption. Slowly, slowly we start opening the book, but people have to understand.
And as for the container where you put the wires, it must be sealed, meaning that no air goes through in order to avoid oxidization.
Have you seen my torch? Is open as anything. There is no condition for it. But I think what you'll find out, and we're discussing with the developers, is you need your wires to be as much as possible on the outside of the system, that you can absorb as much as possible from the casing. Your casing is your absorber of the power. I think the solar cell system, if they haven't understood what they can do with this system, if they produce nano-materials the way we do, instead of using nano-coating the way they do, the power generators can be changed very quickly. But now it means you have to buy new panels, and that's a new headache. So you just change the wires from a nano-painted to nano-coated naturally with the copper. Then you find out the solar systems will become very favorable very rapidly back in the market. We did a calculation. If you use a total surface, a 1 meter by 1.6 meter, which is a normal 1.5 meter normal solar cell panels, it should give you around about 3 to 5 kilowatt of energy. So you don't need 21 panels. One panel in the same area and same thing should give you about the same as 20 panels. This is a calculation we did sometime about 4 or 5 years ago. And so you can have literally, as I said, a few black and white pictures around the wall of the house, and each one supplies energy to that room for what that room needs. Any other question?
Yes, Mr. Keshe, I do have a question with regards to magnetic channels, which were observed in GaN's material so assuming we do have the same environment around the sun or around huge systems, can these channels be used for traveling in cosmos? I think maybe you might have mentioned this thing.
Well, do you want to go through the sun channels?
Yes.
Good luck to you. You have the system and you have the nano coating. You see the same channels. You see the same channels as in the structure of the brain of the man. Look at the MRIs and you see the same channels because it's made through the same process. If and when the man goes outside the solar system and looks at the plasma of the system, you will see the same kind of channels in the structure of the plasma of this solar system. This is a natural process when the fields, in a way, find the most magnetic field, gravitational field balance. Channeling this kind of channels is a normal process of the plasmatic condition. Look at the brain of the man. You see the channels, but you see there's a separation and twist and turn in the brain. And when there is a separation, which is a huge information separation between the emotional and the physical part of the body, when you cut the brain, you see a very big gap. That's another channel which is dictated by the body in our structure. If and when the medical science opens up the brain and looks at the size of this gap, or you can take MRI and look at the size between the physical and the emotional part, you can tell a lot about the characteristics and the character of the person. That these gaps, these separations, even in the total structure of the brain, even it's not within the solid structure of the brain part, they all have a reason. These create certain fields in the environment and they have a purpose. So these channels are normal things when you're dealing with plasma.
So assuming I have a system which is magnetic and gravitational field capable, and I choose a destination. Let's say I pick a particular star from the environment of our star, our sun. Do I need to, once I've identified the fingerprints of my destination, once I've understand the magnetic and gravitational field of my destination, when I get myself absorbed or pulled by that destination, does the magnetic field or does the plasma environment automatically put me on a specific channels which brought me in, or do I just
you just get pulled in. You just get attracted. It's just when you put a magnet in front of another magnet, how does it pull? It doesn't go around the channel, it goes directly in. There's a process of the Flight system, there is a paper somewhere in the back of the paper, we explain the flight system. Flight system is not as you go directly to a position. You go indirectly in different ways, and before you take the course of action, you have to understand what's on your path. How many and how deep and how strong the plasmatic, magnetic oceans are. You are used to ocean as a water on the earth, which is the liquid material in the galaxies, and between the galaxies and between the stars, there is same kind of high power plasmatic oceans. And you have to determine your path. You don't go into a high density where the field of your craft is below, so you just literally become like a sugar in the hot water, as I always say. You have to assess to be above it, that you become like a stone in the water, you don't get dissolved. But you do that with respect to the magnitude of the plasma.
But then if I become a little bit stronger than like a stone, that means I'm creating a friction between my system and the environment. And the idea is that
yes,
the
but
lesson,
you have... Yeah, but the thing is, you have to find the balance. You have to find the balance or avoid certain sections. Magnetic vortexes is what you got to avoid. The way you have whirlpools, you have the same thing in magnetic field conditions in the space. You have to understand what you do, what thickness, and what you choose the minimum friction, or you want to be physically detectable as well to create that condition. In time, the scientists will do the programming for this, and in time, the programming will be taught by thinking and not by electronic and electrical systems. We had a very nice experience over the weekend with the people who were here. As you know, we have gone through the phase of with the knowledge seekers, that they sit in front of the reactors now. We did it last week again. And they try to control the operation of the reactors, or what they give to the reactor and what they take from the reactor. And last week we sat John on one side and Armin on the other side, opposite each other, and in trying to see how each one was sitting in front of one what you call star formation cell, looking directly into the center core. And we observed the process, who gives, who takes, and what it is. And I was analyzing what figures were coming up and how they were. And it's very interesting when one tries to be better than the other one, so it damages the whole balance or tries to dominate. On Saturday, one of the representatives sat in front of the system, and he literally neutralizes the whole room. It was very interesting to see how these people who are very much in touch with their inner feeling can create such a condition. I had to reset everything to overcome the balance he created through his own natural process of giving, and there was no more to give, and the room was totally in balance. We wrote the data down, and it was very interesting to see how one man could, through his own inner peace, give, and that he could share so easily. I learned a lot from this weekend from these people. So you got to learn how much you want to give, and at the same time you have to teach, okay, this is the path I want to go from one point to another, what's in there, and you pre-train yourself in how to evaluate and predetermine the work of the reactor to create what you call the shielding, but the balance existing forces.
I was under impression that
Carry on.
I was under the impression that if you, for example, use the principal star, the principal matters plasma fields, which are much more higher or much more stronger, then you become less frictionless, and therefore your movement, you will not, let's say, come in touch with other material around you. So, for example, if I move from one point within the planet, let's say from Europe to Africa, for example, I can go through all the material matter, let's say mountains, up to a point where I want to be. And then once I am in that position, then I can choose to reduce the field or to increase the field to become detectable. But at that time, I should be aware that where I am standing, there is no structure like a mountain, for example, before I actually reduce the field to be able to become tangible in that position. Does that make sense?
That's something you got. I understand, but that is possible. But the knowledge you carry and the fields you carry allows you to do this. Because as you go into transition, going to the principle of strength to the center is impossible. Because further you go in, there is still further down the line. So is position respective. You might be in the principal, to you, in the principal region of the magnetic field of the plasma, but in fact there is further in that you're actually on the matter level in respect to that area. So this is magnitude, the strength dependent. This is what we showed here in the test in the lab in the last few weeks to the knowledge seekers, and we repeated it yesterday again. As you know, at the beginning, very early weeks, when the reactors were put together, the knowledge seekers reached the lift condition. And I told them they are at a lift condition, and then they broke up the system. And at that point I realized my assumption that these people understand was far away from the total understanding. So it created a lot of, what do you call it, disappointment in the lab. But I took everything back to 0 point and started literally step by step measuring a reactor, then putting 1 or 2 reactors together in respect to each other with 2 detectors and building up pressures and everything else. And last week and this week, with the knowledge seeker tested it with 1 reactor, accidentally happened with another one, and we did it as a whole. And yesterday was repeated again. Is that I think all the cores, more or less, were loaded up to about 50 loads of different gases, which when we saturated the cores with hydrogen, helium, nitrogen, argon, all the 5 gases we have, all the 4 gases we have, the 4 we have, and we increased layer by layer the pressure on each core, and the hydrogen was fed as a common line to put pressure on the plasma to increase the production mass of the plasma. And when it reached a saturation point, yesterday or the day before, we start taking the gases out of the cores. So yesterday afternoon, Armin and Marco literally extracted all the gases from the cores, and then we loaded with I think 4 units of the hydrogen to just give a cushioning to the plasma that doesn't come in touch with the wall of the reactor. So you don't need any matter. But what we did with compressing the environment of the core, we tried to go and push the further down to bring the further transition and strength up, and it did not work because of the reason for this. In the nuclear use reactors, we see this, But with the nano-coated materials we use in our reactors, the magnetic gravitational field, the total gravitational magnetic field of the nano layer dictates the condition. And in most of the cases, the reactors are glue, they receive the nano coating glued on them. So in fact, you have a copper in between both sides of the nano layer, which gives a buffer zone and it dictates the strength of the fields you can absorb or hold within the containment. You cannot go into transition or into the principal section of the plasma, even though now we open the plasma to take the full environment of the core. Wherever you go in transition, there is still another transition between the principal and you in respect to the magnitude of the strength of the field. So if you think you go into the principal, you're not never reach that point because there is more condenser fields inside. If you reach to center of the principal matter, you will come to nothingness and you can never reach that point.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Any other question? Are we still alive?
Yes, we are.
Yeah. Is there any questions from GoToMeeting?
Okay, I'll drop another one, Mr. Keshe. Have the knowledge seekers started already working on GANS reactors?
Pardon?
And have the knowledge seekers started working on the GANS reactor? And if there's any news on that?
John has built 2 units. He's just doing the balancing on one of them yesterday. He's just had some friction on one. We have facility for 4 to make a new star formation. And but at the moment the priority has changed into the what I call the lift condition of the systems. As I told you, we are on a pre-lift condition, so till we don't sort that out for the next few days, we concentrate on this. And meanwhile, if there is a time, John will build and complete that. But I think we might do a pre-test before we break up on Wednesday. But I don't see how it can be done. Maybe we can achieve it. But the materials are ready. Marco and Armand have made a new nursery for production of the ganses. And we see what that results, what that will bring for us.
Thank you.
This is what I explained, and I repeat again. At the moment, our priority sits with the lift, because we have entered in the past 48 hours pre-lift condition, which we do not want to lose. And as I said, none of the knowledge seekers will post anything regarding this. And if we achieve lift, which we see we are about to do, it'll only be announced once we consult with the Italian government.
Mr. Keshe, I think Merrick is asking, what is the state of the GANS test on plants in the SSI?
Very scattered, because with the way, as you know, there was a lot of disharmony and breakup in the foundation because of certain people's behavior. And that showed, and that came just about the time when the plants were planted. And it caused a lot of breakup in that process. And now that the people who were in that position have left the foundation, we haven't had time to pay more attention to it. We can start the process again, but it'll be for autumn time, and when we come back. But don't forget that we have a full evaluation of the GANs through 3 years of study by scientists in Belgium, which we paid for the systems, and it's been tested. We have all the data. We know what to expect. more or less. And I was talking to the gentleman who's been doing it. Hopefully after holidays we go back to Sierra Leone, where we have been given the facilities to test in the larger scale.
I have a question from Ad. I'd like to present for him. He says, let me just get it straight here. He's not able to attend the workshop, and he would like to ask Mr. Keshe if it would be possible to use cast steel, not cast iron, because of the same properties as normal steel, easier to weld and to work with. I was wondering if it would be treated like the core of GERT by covering the inner wall with copper, that it could be workable, because even the core would have more of the magnetic iron properties than with the stainless steel with the nickel and the chromium in it. So the question is as well, could it be done, and or is it already done? And does the magnetic properties of the steel influence the operation of the core? And if so, could he explain to use why? And why is it different than stainless steel, plastics, ceramic, and copper, for example, the steel? Did you get?
As you know, the reason you cannot coat, the reason you cannot create nanostructure on a stainless steel is because of its deformation. They do the crystal deformation with it. Any other material can be used to create a nano layer on the surface. The way the stainless steel is done, stainless steel is the only material because of its production method that does not allow the atomic structure to become loosened, to become, what do you call it, a nano layer. You can make nano layers of gold and silver as we done. When we did it, they said you're stupid, it cannot be done. Now we explain the nano layer, we don't paint it on, we just create enough heat that the top layer loses enough that it releases atomic so what do you call it, structures, and those then they become nano layers of the material themselves. So any material can be used as to produce a nano layer, but to use it as a core, you can use a clay, you can use anything. The only thing you need is to be able to create a nano surface small enough that you can chain the dog, or what I call the plasma, to it. The rest is yours. You find a nail, a rusty nail, we have it here, we coated it here, and you put this rusty nail in front of or in the middle of a clay core, and if you can create plasma in that core, you can attain all the properties we do with copper or plastic. Containment is irrelevant. This is the major breakthrough in the world of science. This I explained to the policymakers a few times in the past few weeks. The breakthrough has come in being able to produce nano layers so rapidly, so cheaply, and then due to the structure of the nano layers, which are magnetic layers on top of each other because of the gap between the atoms, creating magnetic field container. If you look at your cores, if you put a nano layer on your core, you have created the best tokamak. They spent 30 billion to create a condition of the plasma in south of France. By the time they finish, and look at all the tokamaks, they create all these magnetic loops. You've done it with no cost. You are more efficient than the governmental tokamaks. You walk to any nuclear center, says I can hold plasma, they tell you crazy, says you measure it, you'll see it. That's what we do here. This is a breakthrough. This is why a lot of nations and scientists have and fight with what we release. Because it's so logical and so simple. Why do you need to build a $10-20 billion container and control it when you can do it with a few cents with the nano layers the way you do? They have to oppose, they have to ridicule, because it shows their lack of understanding and why they wasted all the time and the money in. So what you do when you have a rusty pin and you nano-coat it, that layer of nano-coating is magnetic gravitational and is in a plasma condition. Now that you create a plasma which is magnetic gravitational, they literally glue to each other. You can even break up the pot. As long as you can keep that nail, you can walk around the house with a nail in your hand and the plasma attached to it, and you walk with a portable torch. We're going to show this. This is what I keep on telling to John, and it's his biggest nightmare. One day we're going to crash the porcelain reactor in the lab. Because you don't need a containment. The position is that all the things we've done in past few weeks, all the process all of you been through, if you haven't understood it, was to create the plasma. Once you create a plasma, because of the nanomaterials you have used, the way you put the material in caustic, you have created the link, the chain to hold the plasma to. The nail in the center of the core of John, or in what do you call it, in Marco's, which is a stainless steel. This is just what do you call it, the pin which you put in the ground to keep the dog and its leash, that the dog doesn't run away. That's the pin. That's all you're doing. This is something which most of you haven't understood. Going through the process of baling the reactor, going through the process of putting the nano layers or putting a nano layer pin inside, and then going through the process of ionization of the gases, was to create the plasma and nail that plasma into the core. And that's what I said to all of you from the beginning. Put a nail, put a beam, put a, what do you call it, a piece in the center of your reactor. The ones who have nano-coated the whole surface of the reactor by putting a copper layers or whatever, you have made a tokamak in the cheapest way. You are containing plasma. And because you run at the highest speed, you don't have the facilities, you don't have the systems. Bring your systems to the foundation. We measure it, how much plasma you are holding by measuring the magnetic field around it. This is what we did this week. This week we ran the reactors for nearly, was it 8 weeks now, 10 weeks, different reactors. And we, John, Arman and Marco, went individually around every reactor and measuring the field up and down over past few weeks. What the strength was higher in the top or in middle or the bottom, to find the direction of flow of the plasma magnetic field. And then this week we had a beauty contest in the lab. Oh, as Arnold says, we put every reactor on one table in the same position in the lab. And we measured the gravitational magnetic field of the core in 6 directions. Four sides, the top and the bottom. And we tried to attain the maximum or the best results we could in measuring. And then we measured from core to core to realize if the core was north and south, and which way was the flow of the plasma. So all the things you went through past 9-10 weeks or whatever with us, using the caustic to make the nano layers, this was all the process of showing you to get you to where you are. And now you have reached the point that most of you or some of you understand. You've achieved a major breakthrough in the world of science. And that is, not only with your nano layers you have created the plasma in a very cheap way, you have chained the plasma, contained it in the same core. You don't need the gases. If you manage to create the plasma, you can hold your vacuum condition If you have created the nano coating, you put the gases in, and you have rotated your reactor that the nano-coated allowed the plasma to be created, you can empty your cores from the plasma, or from the gases. The plasma still will be in the center. But because you have a single core and you don't have the facilities we have here, to you is nothing is happening. But with us, because we have 8 reactors, 9 reactors, and we have 4 more coming into operation in the next few days or weeks, we see the interaction between them. Yesterday, as we, extracted the gases, we saw a small reactor core, which is about 6 centimeter, and we just extract a little gas. We see the change in the plasma fields of the whole total, as a sphere of the plasma around the reactors. So it just because you don't see tangible, it's just because you don't have the facilities. Here we have the facilities. You have reached a plasma. If you can take your reactor to an institute where they can measure activities of the plasma, they will confirm to you. This is what you have through, and this is one of the reasons I explained a couple of workshops before. We will send you materials that everyone around the world can see the work of the reactor when you connect with us. Because you have one reactor, you don't see anything. But once we connect the reactors, your reactor to our reactor through the material we send you, is instantaneous. We can operate your reactor from here, then you see the changes. Then you can see understand the performance. It's very much, those of you who are electronic or computer wizards, nowadays you don't need to take your computer to the computer shop. The guy comes through remote in your computer and repairs and it goes out. We are heading in that direction. And that's why Armin and Marco and John are targeting and producing more of the GANs materials, that we can build this connection with the rest of you around the world. You have achieved something which in the world of science doesn't exist, and you'll find a lot of opposition because it shows how far we've gone wrong. With a coconut reactor, which you have most probably could put some nano layers inside it, you achieved more plasma, dynamic plasma, that they've done with a $30 billion tokamak reactor to be built in south of France. There is a step needed, which this is one of the reasons we have put total silence on the whole work of the spaceship reactor system. Is there is a step missing, as I said to the knowledge seekers. Now all of you have a beautiful Rolls Royce parked in front of the house, but you don't have the ignition key to get in to run it. And we have started opening the ignition key here in the center. And that's why I explained to you we are in a pre-flight condition. This was deliberately held back, as in no patent. We kept it back, that when we reach this position that we can teach worldwide, we release the key. All of you, if you have made a plasma reactor, whatever you did, in Belgium, in China, in anywhere around the world, you have rapidly active reactors in your hand, which are holding plasma. Don't open your reactors just because you think nothing is happening. When you vacuum all the gases from your reactor, just inject 1 or 2 units of hydrogen just to cushion the plasma, that the plasma doesn't come in touch with the wall and converts into matter. We've seen that with the opening of the steel reactor last week, as I explained. So that cushioning stops the conversion and you keep a constant plasma. And then in the coming time, we will release the key. This key deliberately was not put into any patents. We wanted to bring everyone around the world to this point, that now you understand. And in the coming days, the key has been, in so many ways, in different form, has been opened up to the knowledge seekers here in the center that are working on it. And that's why we said from now on we are in precondition, because the system is built, the system is fueled, now is ready to move, and the data and the machines we have confirms this position. So if you've been through the whole process with us past few months, you have achieved more than what the, what do you call it, the center in Switzerland, CERN's, has been trying to achieve for years. You have created more dynamic plasma. The plasma in your cores is highly active and highly dynamic. Extremely dynamic. It's not sitting there. A plasma does not sit. It's not what do you call it, a dough. It's a spheric, it's highly active. It moves at a speed beyond the speed of light. But you're not used to it. It's the same as if you hold a magnet in your hand. You know it's a magnet, but you can't see the flow of the fields coming out of it or going inside it. Your plasma is in the same condition. Do not destroy, do not open your reactors. Do not get disappointed what I cannot see. Even if you have 2 reactors, unless you have the facilities we have here, you will not understand. One of the ways for you to check your reactor if your plasma is active or not, or you reach the plasma condition you're holding, first of all, when you extract the gases from your core, you should reach a position of you're holding your vacuum. If you've been through the whole process of building the reactor, lining it, gassing it, and doing the way most of the knowledge seekers have taught you over the past few months and from the patents, you 100%, not even 99%, have plasma in your core. If you put a center pin inside, then you don't need the walls. If you did not put a center pin inside, then you need your walls to contain the plasma. There's 2 ways. You put a dog in a cage and tame it, or you put a leash on a dog and you put a pin in the ground and you hold them in the same place. It's one of the 2 ways you've done. If you have created a pin in the center, your plasma will hold. You can even open your reactor and you will see the plasma. Even you won't see it, but we show you how to see it. But if your core is coated with nano layers, that's the cage. You've got to keep the dog inside. Then if you want to see how effective your reactor is, if you have a plasma or not, do a very simple thing. Put your power supply on a fixed rotation position. That is, you put it at, let's say, 5 volts and 1.4 amps. Then increase the pressure by adding very, very minute amount of gas into your cylinder. If by adding gases you find variation in your current or your voltage, it means you have created pressure magnetic fields that affects the pressure on the motor and your current drops or increases. That's the indication for you if you've achieved plasma. You don't have the knowledge, I wish you would have had, to create multi-layer plasmas. I will teach you how to make multi-layer plasmas in the coming months. Then, if you can do with 1 core multi-layer plasma, you become like the sun. If you cannot reach, most of you have a monoplasma, the only way you can confirm you have a plasma condition in your reactor is by, first of all, one of the things you do when you are degassing your chambers, as Marco and Armand been doing it, and John, is you don't open your cores in 1 go to get the gases out. The way you loaded it up, you had a measurement, you had the extension, and then you open the core. You do the reverse. You close your extension that nothing goes back into the exhaust or rejection or the measuring side. And then you open, to open the valve to extract the gas from your core should take you at least 1 or 2 minutes. Very, very slowly, that you don't disturb the plasma and you don't suck out the pre-plasma conditions, which is a coating layer on the plasma. And then you do this you empty your core over a period of at least half an hour. Small pieces, small at very. And then one of the main things you got to realize is that you create a vacuum in your pump to be able to suck the gases out of the cylinder. You don't go to 1 bar. You go to like 0.4, 0.6, very, very low. You don't disturb the plasma. You extract very gently at a very low level. And then when you're happy at that level is reached, you go from 0.6 to 0.8 and you repeat the same process very slowly. You extract all the gases. Then you find out you have a perfect plasma, and then look at the current on your motor, and then you will see the power supply to the motor, because your field creates gravitational magnetic field. And then when you add again some gases and you compress the plasma, you see changes in the current flow in your motor, because it increases or decreases the weight or the pressure weight, magnetic gravitational weight on the motor. Then you know you got a plasma. Do not touch your reactor. Don't do anything with it, because unless we teach you to do a multi-layering, then you think you achieved nothing. A lot of you have been waiting to see your reactors fly. You got two choices. You got to create a star formation, or you have to create a multi-layering that you have full control over multi-layering. If you have a multi-core, you can achieve lift, but you have a complications of the separation of the cores. The Iranian half-sphere reactor is a multi-layering, and it flies on its own. So whatever you've done in past few months has brought you to the point of maturity. The only thing is, you build a beautiful car. It's time to give you the ignition key. We are testing 2 different ignition keys here because of the material we used. And once we achieve our, our target, as I said, through international laws, we have to inform the Italian government, and it's my responsibility to inform the Iranian government, as I've agreed with them. And then we release it to public. This is part of the confirmation of the work, and we've been very open. We stay open. We are on a pre-flight condition. Seriously, we are pre-flight condition, and we will release the key into the flight condition once we achieve it, because I think this brings to the force in so many ways what we brought the world religious leaders meeting together for. Because I knew we reach this point in the coming weeks. I set it up that way in the teachings and the process, but the knowledge seekers developed it themselves. And now when we bring all the nations into one go, you can be from here to New York in a matter of minutes. Then the political structure has changed, and the knowledge is not with one person now. It's recorded, and now is getting tested by other knowledge seekers. That's why we're confident we can say where we are, because one cannot be eliminated. For the chair.
Okay. Thank you very much for that, Mr. Keshe. Is there any other questions?
Mr. Keshe, I think we're just having some sound problems here.
Thanks, Vince. Yeah, I didn't have my microphone on. I was on the live stream briefly there, but just wondered if there was more questions from the go-to meeting, perhaps. Anybody
yeah, there's a few questions here, but it looks like they've lost the connection there at the Spaceship Institute. So we'll just wait for them to come back. But yes, there is a couple of questions in the GoToMeeting. JF or Paul, did you guys want to ask your questions yourself, or did you want me to ask for them for you? Okay. Hello, Mr. Keshe. Yeah, you're back.
Where did you lost us? Hello?
Yeah.
Where did you lose us?
I'm not sure where we actually lost you there, or if it was if you actually stopped speaking. So it's just a minute ago.
What did you hear a minute ago? So we are there. So you
Just
know we
actually,
are. Yes, carry on. What did you hear? Then we tell you where we are.
I think it was just after you said you were going to release the key due to the last meeting with the representatives.
What?
Hello. The meeting with the representatives last weekend here. You said that was an indication for you that is going on the right track, and it will be soon time to release the key. And I think that was the last time.
So that's we heard. Yeah, okay, that's where we are, and that's the position we are sitting at. And as I said this morning to the knowledge seekers, when we came in and I saw the data on the system, I congratulate them in achieving what they were setting out to do. We are extremely, what do you call, we got to be extremely careful in what we do and how we perform from now on, because the data on the table shows again after 4 weeks we are back, or 5 weeks we are back on the same track. Any other question?
Yes, there's a couple of questions here in GoToMeeting. Rick, can you mute your mic, please? We have a question from JF. It says, in the last workshop, Mr. Keshe talked about the 4-6-8 number relation. And can you explain more about that?
No.
Okay. And then the next question is from Paul, and he asks you, what is ball lightning? Is it a matter-less plasma?
Plasma. It's a condition.
So it's,
as I explained earlier on, we were talking that in the space you come to magnetic vortexes. These are the same condition, but in the Earth gravitational magnetic field. These are a natural process. So a
potential difference with, but a magnetic potential difference.
Yeah, it's a magnetic and gravitational field difference. It's literally what you create in your reactor, but it's done naturally due to the conditions in the environment. You are used to the wind because it's matter. Don't forget this planet creates gravitational magnetic fields as a plasma too. And these flow, they are dynamic. You get little bubbles when you're turning the water. It's the same thing. These plasmas are created due to the physical condition of the flow of the fields within the magnetic field of the Earth. It's not. I've seen somebody saying he's seen an angel with one and the others. These, you are in a condition in the environment when materials and gases and magnetic fields are released and create that illusion. It's not an illusion, it's seeing the things, what we call it as these plasma bubbles. It's understanding the process, understanding exactly what happens and how the process happens. Any other question?
Yes, good morning, Mr. Keshe. This is Lucian. I have a very short question for you. Basically, you stated that if you put the central pin, which is nano-coated, that will being a plasma and gravitational magnetic field will not be bound with anything, so not soldering, no nothing. So my question is this: if you fill the reactor or the containment vessel, as you name it, with some liquid, whatever that liquid will be, like oil or any other substances, this will poison the nanomaterial, or literally will be repelled from the nanomaterial and will not be able to penetrate into the PN junctions.
We saw this when we broke the first porcelain core of John, and we see material stuck to the center of the pin, in the center part, and the pin is clean at the bottom where actually the liquid was sitting. The reason for that is where the water sits, there's got no interaction with the physicality. Where the GaNs was thrown, due to balance of this gravitational magnetic field, they got stuck to the wall of the center pin. Liquids do not stick. Oils and that kind of thing should not stick.
I'm thinking about...
Hello? Your thoughts are disturbed or disrupted. Are we there?
I think we have a little delay.
Okay,
so I will continue just a little bit. Yes, so I was Yes, so I was thinking, I was experimenting with filling with oil, vegetable oil, or this kind of materials. So not with GaNs, as the knowledge seekers are doing. So based on what you said, that you cannot solder the nano-coated pins, my understanding should be that any kind of oily material should be repelled by the nano-coated pin.
Yeah,
and I'm asking you because...
it should be repelled, but you have to realize that some materials have the ability or carry both the GaNs and the matter together. This is in addition to what you understood up to now. Some liquids, some materials, due to the process they've been through, carry both. So this is very much how the fields between the connection between the matter and the GaNs is established. So if you have a material which is totally matter, no, it will not stick. But if you have matters which have some GaNs mixture in them, you'll find the connection is the GaNs between the two and the matter.
Right, I'm asking you because I may have very interesting news for you. It appears that in a regular vegetable oil, which is mixed oil, vegetable oil bottle, in which water is mixed with vegetable oils and having two bunches of nano-coated copper wires in two different plastic containers, which are not into the bottle, are producing a separation of the oxygen into the water, and there's not the CO2 GaNs that the knowledge seekers are using or obtaining. Something else. You will have some picture on this, and the oxygen is pulled down and toward the walls of the bottle, is leaving on the top some sort of whatever that will be, probably some sort of modified oil, and in the middle between the water and the top layer of oil, some whitish substance, which probably next workshop you may want to take a look on it. So now I was thinking that if I will insert into the bottle the pin, which is a copper nano-coated wire, that should probably produce very interesting results.
Can you explain what you said again? Start from the beginning.
Yes, we have an ordinary oil bottle, that we are eating. from the supermarket. So into the bottle, the oil is emptied, and I'm putting water, about 50%, and oil, ordinary vegetable oil, 50%. Leaving on the top about 1/3 of the volume empty. So basically, I'm squeezing a little bit the bottle, I'm closing it, and it's a little bit vacuum. Very very low, because the bottle is squeezed. So now, near the bottle, I have 2 little containers that are full with copper nano-coated wire. And I left them for a couple of days.
Outside the liquid?
Outside the liquid. So it's like your star system. Well, static speaking. So after a couple of days, the bottom water is not anymore clear. It's something like a whitish, milkish thing, and it's not a CO2 thing. It's not a CO2 gas, for sure. It's a middle layer, which is some white foam, and the top layer, which is some sort of residual product of the oil. But on the perimeter, the circular bottle is oxygen. It can be seen. It's like bubbles. So it's obviously that some of the hydrogen went up into the upper layers, and the oxygen is circular, pulled in the lower part of the bottle. So based on what you said today, I'm thinking that if I'm inserting a pin, that means copper nano-coated wire inside the bottle, I think we should see very interesting results. I'm guessing.
I can guess what you might see, but let us show us what. I think the bubbles you see on the container, these are hydrogen bubbles, not oxygen. Most probably they come from the conversion of the CH bond of the plastic. Especially if you put nanomaterials around it, it's quite possible. But let's see what you've done, and then I'll tell you what I think.
Yes, and I was thinking just to drill the upper cap of the bottle, put a longer copper nano-coated wire to stay somehow in the center of the circular oil bottle, seal it with some hot glue or something like that, resin, and having, as you said, the pin inside the center. And I guess that we should see some results here.
Scientists tried and let us know, but I'll tell you something. Scientists in MIT have done some work like this on nanolayers. Look at their work. But last year or the year before, they did some work on this basis. If you understand the process of the nano coating, how you create nano coating from the metal up, this I was explaining to the Italian scientist here past few days, that if you understand the process, that how at the moment when you buy Teflon is coated on top of the steel. If you understood the process of the nano layering, how it's produced, you can create pans here. That's what we are going to do in Italy in the coming weeks, because it's a major pots and pans producer. Materials which you can never scratch. You can scratch while you're cooking, and you put a pan in the cupboard, and next morning the layer grows back up. So non-destructible, what do you call it, Teflon layers. This was one of the things we look at, how will the behavior of frying material in it will show. This is one of the things which we discussed with the Italian guys. So what you're telling us is something we are considering it in a different direction, but it will be nice to see what you come up with. But this is one of the problems. Would the oil stick to the pan or be floating on top, and would that change a lot of things in cooking directions too? Nano materials should not, nothing should stick to them unless you create the bridge material, the way we've seen. That's why, for example, you have bone in the structure of the body. It's a matter, but it allows the gans material of the flesh and the muscles and the connections to be stuck to it, because that matter has an interim both conditions. This process we understand very well, but it'd be nice to see what you show us. I'm learning a lot from things, because as you know, my wife is forever watching everybody is doing around, and she comes and shows me, have you seen what this boy is doing? Have you seen? Different people around the world are coming up with different ideas, and that was what we planned. That was the whole purpose, and we are achieving it. It's very nice the way you do, but if you share the knowledge the way you are doing, is the purpose. But as I said, what you're telling me, what happens is something we already speak with, to see if we cook in these nano layers, does the meat ever burns? The next few days, I told you I received the cups for the cup of life, for the water of life. Now we are looking into the, what do you call it, production of pots and pans in Italy, coated. And it'll be very, very interesting, very interesting. Teflon is because of its structure. Now you have a meat and you put on the pan, can you control the speed of cooking? Because the meat will never touch the pan. And the vegetables the same, or they just receive the heat and they cook in like a steam microwave. These are, like you're testing, we are testing to understand the parameters. And it'll be nice if you post it, I'll have a look at it. And as we find, you'll have a look at it. I show you next week, we break up after the workshop, because we have meetings which we finish on Thursday morning. I'll try to give the picture of the cup of life that the knowledge seekers can post. And then we ask for volunteers around the world. We send it to you to test it. It'll be the first time, again, back since the seed test we did some 4 years ago. We'll distribute the cups around the world that people can copy freely, at the same time to give us their understanding if it's correct and how correct and what they feel. So the next international trial will be hopefully done before the summer break or after the summer break, because the systems are already in process of getting changed.
Mr. Keshe, would that cup be similar to what's shown in the patent that's been released previously with the USB key and so on?
Partially, yes. Partially,
okay.
yes. We have reached a major breakthrough in the health aspects, and that is, I told you before, we have managed to create condition to replicate protein or encourage the production of protein in the body of the man. It means that the water you drink has the characteristic of the protein which you are short of. And this is now on trial. 3 sets has been sent out, and then we'll see the results. The preliminary results coming from one case confirms the correctness, but we need more than one to see how far we are going. The second case has shown, at the moment it's just been out for about a week. We are waiting to see what that comes up, and one will start within the next 7 days. So, in fact, you can make cups which within the cup replicates the energy of, let's say, beef or lamb or bread or wheat. We are highly advanced, but if you release the knowledge the way we are doing, a lot of people will be scared and it becomes hocus pocus. We're already in the hocus pocus man, but it gets it worse. So we're testing things and we release the knowledge accordingly. You got to realize that officials at the high level around the governments around the world are realizing what we are doing, and our support has changed from individuals to government. As I said, one of a nation like Japan, for a government to approach a foundation for finding a solution for Fukushima shows the correctness of what we done, and they tested it as we did. We are highly respected, and those people who think by emails or putting things like a scam.com they can disturb the work, I thank them because they brought more attention. And we are working very correctly and within the structure and the parameters of our work. There is a lot of information to be sent out, but you got to realize we work between the three levels. First, teaching; secondly, making; and thirdly, the ethos or the conducts of the use of the materials. Whatever you want to call it. It's the full package, but you got to understand what it is and how it's done. Now, if the Italian manufacturers confirm to us that the production of the pan, it's and we see the performance of its food production, is perfect for us. In a way, you can never get contaminated, and in a way, even if you use or produce GANS material and you eat it, it's part of the energy system you receive. Maybe you need less energies than you actually would eat food to feel, to receive the energy you need. But this is the process which we're going to test now, and as I said, the manufacturers have started the setting of the first prototype. So in a way, you can, as I said, make as much scratches as you like on the pan and put it in a cupboard, and next day you pick it up, it's already recoated itself, because the gravitational magnetic field layer of the around the scratch will start creating the condition on the top layer to create a fresh layer, and then it builds up back up itself. Scientifically understood, and we have seen it. We've done it on the wires. Years ago, we used to sandpaper the wires and then leave them in the room for a while, and you see them, the coating comes back on again without any caustic. But you have to do it in a specific way, and that can be repeated in the pans. Pardon?
I've read that that's why copper oxide can be a good coating on the inside of normal radioactive type reactors, is because when it gets damaged by the radiation, it actually repairs itself. So that's a big feature for that kind of coating.
Yes, but that's a nuclear, and that's the proliferation side use of the copper. But the copper you hear in the nuclear industry is not the copper you think of.
It's not the similar copper oxide. It's a different.
No, it's
process.
not the copper oxide. It's a different kind of copper. It's totally different kind of copper. It's the process which is highly sought after knowledge and technology. It's open to us.
Whoops. I think we got cut off there.
I don't hear anything.
I can't hear you, Mr.
Yeah, I'm still here, but
we lost Mr. Keshe, right?
No, that's me. No, that's me.
I mean, we lost.
We lost him again.
We lost him. Yeah. Just went away.
Yeah.
I don't know if you can hear me at the Spaceship Institute, but we're having technical difficulties here.
It shows that it's calling him back. You see,
yeah, they just have a bad connection.
Maybe I should call them.
No, just let it go. Wait till see what happens.
Okay.
Well, Rick, when you get him back on, can you ask if that cup will actually heal injuries also, like knee injuries? Because I had my leg cut off when I was young, and it's reattached, but I wanted to see if it would heal that. I have damage, a lot of damage still.
Okay. Oops, seems like they just dropped out altogether of the call. Do we have more questions, Vince, from the GoToMeeting end of things? Are we going to wind things up here soon?
I think we should see what else he has for information. He said he's just asking for questions, so I don't think there's too much. And then I think, is he going to let the knowledge seekers speak, or do we know?
Good point. Okay.
Also, Rick, can you ask him about the, he has these different Keshe Foundations set up in different countries around the world. Is that funded by his foundation, or are the countries paying for this? And what are they doing, all the different areas, or just specific things?
Well, from what he's told before, Brett, he said that each Keshe Foundation has the same knowledge. So if somebody makes a breakthrough at one point in some other knowledge, then it should be shared with the rest of the foundations.
Yeah, I know that, but I was talking about actually what they're actually working on. Like Elia's going to do the medical in Bulgaria. Other places might do specifically something else particularly. That's what I meant.
Oh, I think we got him back
was
again.
The question?
There we go.
The minute we start talking about sensitive things, the God says no.
Yeah, I should have kept my tongue closed there on that one. Okay.
No, we are highly controlled. We think we are not. Okay.
Yeah, we don't need to talk about radioactive situations and so on. So, Brett had a question here regarding some of the other aspects of the Keshe Foundations around the world. Could you just ask that question, Brett? Maybe it'd be easier.
Share information, they do what they like.
Okay. And also I had a question about the cup of life water. Does that heal injuries?
You will find out. Depends what the injury is.
Well, when I was younger, I had my leg cut off by a piece of metal at the knee, and it was reattached, but I've had 3 surgeries since, and then I still need more, and it's never healed, and I'm always in pain, so that's what I was wondering.
Well, I don't know. Drink the water and put a cup on your knee, and then we'll see.
All right, so I'll sign up for one of those participants.
No, we don't work that way. You have to understand, this is why we are very careful regarding the medical application. People do things and then they say, you said this, and as you know, nowadays there's more money to be made for the lawyers just because somebody said something. And that's why we keep it up. No, we have to see the case, what it is, and what is initiated it. It's case by case, if it's a physical damage or is it a neuro damage, and then you plan for what it is and how it is, and how you can remedy it and create a condition. Don't forget, I go back to the principle of the technology. It's the conditions and the environments you create leads to what you need. In the case of the amputated toe 5 years ago, as you know, 6 years ago, we created a condition that could replicate the condition of the body of the man, and the body followed the process and the toe was grown. At the same time, we understood the process of the cancer tumor, and we build a system which goes on the what do you call it, upper arms, and pieces of cancer just literally falls out after 2 hours, and you take it off and it stops. So it shows we have a full control. These are the things which other scientists have to develop. That's why I started teaching of the medical side to Elia, that Elia, with her knowledge, vast knowledge she has, she can translate the language in the language where the medical people can understand. It's a pleasure to work with Elia, because the information is with her is very much holistic on both sides of the process of the normal medicine work and naturopathy. So we are very much aware that people just do things just because they hurt. And this is one thing which is the biggest problem, because they become trying to achieve something to help themselves. But with this technology, you cannot harm. Somebody I've seen says that your technology can cause cancer. There is no way this technology can cause cancer, because its body takes what it needs. How can it cause cancer? We don't enforce
so Mr.
conditions.
Keshe, I want to intervene just a second.
Yeah.
Here, if you remember, maybe 6-7 workshops I was telling about myself. Looks like my body is developing a condition, so the lubrication on the knee is going bad.
What?
My knee lubrication is going bad, so it started to knock out. So based on what you said a few moments ago, I don't have yet the damages. So I'm guessing that, how to say, to use as a guinea pig or a test, it's good to intervene, as you said, holistic, before the damage, physical damage is occurring.
Why don't you use the oil you were using? Lubricated.
Because
that's a good point.
You know what?
Many people use WD-40.
I don't.
People actually spray WD-40 oil on their wrists and so on for arthritis, and they say it works.
I think it's a good path for the graveyard.
For me personally, 1 drop of oil makes my skin bleed, so I can't do oil at all. But power to you, Lucient, if you can.
No, for your condition,
no,
you have to understand
I don't think so.
leads. You got to understand what leads to that condition. Depends what you call lubrication. Is it cartilage loss, or is it a different factor, liquid loss, or creation of liquid?
Is that liquid? I don't know the medical that is lubricating the cartilage. Yeah.
Yeah.
So as it's draining out for any unknown reason, the knee is starting to knock. So sooner or later, the cartilage will be destroyed, damaged, erased, I would say abrased.
Yeah, but there is a process you can build cartilage. We've done it. It can be done, and you can create a condition at your joints where you can, but you have to limit the use of the joint for a time, because the layers are created in the nano layers, very, very slow, and then if you keep on using it, you're rubbing off what you developed. We did this some time ago, and the results is 100% correct. You can even do you do it with the discs in the back. We have cases that people couldn't walk, or they walk bent and they walk straight after a few months, because you can put the liquid back in the disc, as you call it, or you can create a layer of the cartilage in the joint. You got to find out what's the reason that dryness is created. Yes, you always ask. Come on, ask. Hello.
I will ask the silly question. How do I do that? Because
we got to look at the whole structure, what it is, and what has led to this point. If there is no liquid, if there is no, what you call it, the oil or whatever inside it, you have to find out what has caused it. These things are not just happening because it's there. It's just you got to find out why the brain has given such instruction to stop reducing the amount of the cartilage or the liquid in that point. People think if I have a problem with my heart or with my muscle, if it's not accidental, an order has come in for the body to change its function. You have to understand the order. This is the change from the present pharmaceutical. You have to understand what information has come from the brain for your joint not to produce or hold to or extract more than what it receives. It's very much like asthma. People suffer from asthma, a lot of people do. But if you look at the asthma, 99.9% of the asthma, unless it's created due to the damage to the lung, is psychological. Caroline has done a research on this and has gifted the finding to the South Manchester Hospital as a gift, and in how they can help children with huge asthma problems. And it just takes a few hours of a doctor, and that's it. The child lives without any asthma for the rest of his life. Why do you get to that condition? The instruction comes from the brain. You gotta find out what instruction comes that your brain is not holding liquid in that point. It not just doesn't happen on its own. So you go to the source, and then you change the condition at the source, then you find out that it's always miracle. There is no miracle. This is important. Let me. Yesterday we had a recording session with John with the French Freedom Generation channel, and they're going to put this what we start explaining in end of August. In August time, John will post up the link. As I said, we can't teach only in English, so John speaks French, and with the French internet radio, he's been doing a recording for past few days, and yesterday I joined in to explain part of the knowledge. And in a simple way, these people, they call it living in light. Living with light is what it says. People who don't eat any food, but they can live. Just 1 second, let John explain, then I'll come back.
So there are people in the world which have chosen not to eat, and they say they are feeding from the prana, which is energy from the air or from the light. And they have been doing this for many years. Some of the people don't drink either. And this process in some ways has been promoted and initiated by a certain Jasmuheen, which is Australian. There are now many people in the world that go into that way of preparing themselves for change in the world. So Jasmuheen is now teaching. She stopped eating 30 years ago nearly. Another fellow in Henri Montfort in France is nearly in the 10th year. I have a friend which is in the 3rd year of not eating. Some of them, as I said, are trying not to drink either. So they have that a way of living and understanding that we don't need material food to live. Okay.
I've heard recently that NASA did tests on one particular person that went 90 days in their controlled conditions 24/7 without food, and they observed, and in wonder and awe, no doubt.
So in this recording yesterday, I explained in detail how these people do it. How these people can sustain life without any physical drinking or eating. This case I explained initially 2 weeks ago when Guru Mahan was here. And when I explained to him how he does it, because through his belief he does 21 days of fasting every year. So he's done it for nearly 20 odd years. Every year he goes fasting for 21 days, and his followers were with him when he came. I explained to him how he does it scientifically, and he said, "You're correct," as a man who practices it. And in the program we recorded yesterday, I explained in detail how the process is done and how anyone can achieve the same point. This goes back, as I said, we'll teach something about the biology as well today, maybe this is a good point to, now that it's raised, to what do you call it, to bring into knowledge in how in the foundation we work, and it opens a breakthrough in the world of science. I explained this partially to Elia when she was here with us, and partially to Yvonne over the time, past years. We know each other and we talk about things. But now I put it as a package, and if you want to know more in detail, listen to the recording. We have a copy of it as well, but we keep it to ourselves. We promised the broadcast that we'll not release it, but we'll keep a copy here. The process goes back very, very, very simply back into your nano layers, which you produced in the cups. One of the first things you produce when you put the nano layers in the salt water, you saw that layer of fat. It all goes back to the same process of living. People who can live without any food or drink, these are the people who have managed to understand how to condition their body. The whole process goes creating the condition and the environment. As you know, in my previous talks, I have explained how no oxygen ever crosses the wall of the lung and enters the blood. And the whole transfer of energy is through the hydrogen ionization, through the nitrogen. For those who don't know, I'll explain it very quickly. When you breathe air, 65% of the air contains nitrogen, and 15-16% in oxygen. And as I've seen even Marco posting a new video yesterday, or he has posted it, oxygen has more or less 6 protons, 6 neutrons. Sorry, 8 neutrons, 8 protons, and 8 electrons. And if you put it as a ball, it's a huge football. Nitrogen has 14, which is the smaller ball. And then carbon, which we breathe in as part of the air, it's got 12 balls. 6 and 6, and 6 of the electron, 18 altogether. And these are not balls, these are spheres of plasma, which they have magnetically, gravitationally have to position themselves in respect to each other. So there is a gap between them. The size of the ball is not just the number of the electrons or protons or neutrons, but it's the gap they create to be comfortable, to be able to be dynamic. Then you have a hydrogen, which is a single atom. Single hydrogen atom has 1 electron and 1 proton. So now the world of science have told us, and they have made systems to prove that they are correct, is that they say exactly the Earth is the center of the universe, but in the world of medicine. We know the Earth is not the center of the universe, and it's been a fallacy. So passing of the oxygen through the wall of the lung is a fallacy too. If that big ball can go through the wall of the lung, which is the size of the oxygen, how come the little one, which is a hydrogen with 1 single proton and electron, cannot go through? So we should see more of hydrogen and nitrogen and carbon in the blood than oxygen. We don't see such a thing. So what happens in reality, the process is that in a simple way, the nitrogen through the compression and the size of the cavities and the channels in the lung converts into the plasma of nitrogen. It does not stay in the atomic structure of matter. And in that process, due to the pressures and the conditions which is created, nitrogen releases a helium. Energy, a plasma equal the plasma of the helium because of the constriction which is in the blood, in the lung. This helium creates 2 new conditions, and this new atom of nitrogen, which has lost the helium, has 2 options. Because it's lost the helium, it steps down to a carbon plasma. And then at the same time, this helium, this carbon, has the option to link up with the oxygen which is in the air and creates a CO2, which you breathe out. At the same time, this helium, due to its property and extreme ultraviolet through what is known as centralization of the nitrogen, which is divided on itself, it breaks up into hydrogen atoms. And the centralization and vibration of the energy releases exactly that electron, or creates a motion in the electron of the hydrogen, which is exactly like electric current you have, which releases the energy which crosses the wall of the lung into the blood, and the blood receives new energy. The change of the color of the blood when it passes through the lung, as I explained before, is due to receiving the energy from this hydrogen ionization or centralization which is created in the hydrogen atom. So no oxygen ever crosses a wall, and all it happens why your blood becomes brighter and you say it's oxygenated is because it receives the energy, and it's exactly the same process as I always say, like the adjuster in the light in the house. When you increase the current energy, you get a brighter light in the room, and when you reduce it, what they call the dimmers, you get a darker light from the bulb. So the energization of the blood is just by the transfer of the energy hydrogen level exactly across the wall, not by matter level. Body is a total vacuum. The lung is a certain different vacuum bag on its own, and if you look, you have a mouth and an anus, and there is no holes anywhere for this material, for air or the food to get into your muscle tissues and the fibers. So even the same process happens in your digestion system. You, with the acid in the stomach or enzymes in the stomach, you convert and loosen the same process. So when the material goes through your intestine, the energy of the matter is released across the wall from the open air, which is your stomach, to the lymph. And that's why lymph is a bright, transparent material, because it receives a spectrum of all the energies of the foods you eat. So now you understand a very simple process. In the body of the man, being in digestion or the breathing, no food or no material ever crosses. The energy of them cross the wall, and they add the energy to the lymph in the food cycle, or add energy to the blood in the delivery of the energy to the brain directly. So understanding this process brings you back to one thing. If you can energize the blood without eating or breathing air, then you achieve a new dimension. But what you look at is that these people who go on a cycle of no food have mastered one thing. They have mastered to produce water, control the production of water in their body, in their lung. As you know, I've explained this before in the previous talks, is that a lot of you have been ill, and you know a lot of people who go ill when you become old and frail. Your posture changes. When you're sick, your lung and the way you put pressure, psychological pressure or normal pressure on the lung changes. And what happens to these conditions? You find people, for example, as I said before in other talks, 1, 2, 3, up to 6 liters of water in their lungs. But you don't find any of these people dehydrated. You don't find kidney failure, you don't find nothing. The rest of the body operates normal, but the lungs is full of water. If you can manage to extract, let's say, even 1 or 2 liters of water from the body, physical body, into the lung, you should have a kidney failure immediately, even if you were 6 liters. So where does this water comes in the body? This water which comes in the lung is through the natural process of breathing air, and through the same process of the nitrogen converting into carbon, and the carbon adjusting itself to CO2, creating what you breathe out as a CO2. In condition when it changes the structure or the composition or the structure of the lung, the hydrogen which is released, that it releases its energy across the wall to go to the blood, links up with the oxygen too. So that creates the moisture, the water. And this moisture is what it keeps the lining of the lungs in a natural way. There is no water comes from the rest of the body to keep the lung surfaces moisture that they don't stick together. Through the breathing and conversion of the plasma of nitrogen from matter to plasma, and then creating carbon and the helium and create of hydrogen. Hydrogen in conjunction with the oxygen creates the moisture, the water. So when you get frail or your condition changes, the rate of production of this water increases. So you get what they call your lungs gets flooded. The water does not come from the body, it's just that now the nitrogen in a different composition produces too much water. Now, the people who go on this, what they call, they eat from the light and they don't need to eat anything and they don't drink anything. If you have recorded their behavior before they go into this position, you'll find out they breathe totally different than when they go into eating habit. You and I got a habit of sitting at the table and eating bread, meat or whatever. These people who teach themselves how to change the condition of their lung through breathing, they sit at the same table, but in that table they are there on their own and they change the rhythm of the breathing. So now the body creates exactly the flooding of the lung, but they control how much water is needed. They control, the body decides how much water they need, and that water in the lung, if you produce it at a slow speed, the body will take it out and through the system goes back to where you need it. Then it goes back to where, how do they live without the food? As I explained, the food is the energy which you convert, which came from the sun as a plasma, then became a nitrogen, then you digest it, enzymes break it back. Your stomach is a reverse reactor for converting matter to plasma as it came from the sun. So now, if you understood the process, then as you condition your lung, this time instead of the energy being given across to the blood, through this water, the energy is given to the lymph. Passes at a certain rate, it creates and it crosses the lung into the lymph. So now you're nourishing your body not only through the water liquid which you need, but through the energy of the hydrogen which you release into this water, which gets crosses the wall of the lung into the lymph. So what you've done, you converted your stomach into your lung for feeding the material energy is needed. So if you are thought and you can achieve control, then you find out you can drink, you can have as much water as you like from breathing, and you create enough energy as you need. Then this goes back to, as I explained in the talk yesterday in the recording, then this is all the same energy. What happens to the minerals and the other things which we need? This process, as I explained in the previous talks, is controlled. What you do, you put a bank of energy continuously into the lymph. So that your lymphs carries all the full spectrum of the energy your body needs. What happens? You got parotid glands. One and sometimes two of your parotid glands, which is a sign of the size of a pinhead, they have a control in what size the plasma is cut. So if you need calcium, the plasma of the lymph is cut to the energy plasma of the calcium. If you need magnesium, it does the same. If you need calcium, it does the same. One of the glands is responsible for material solid and one is liquid, and the operation of which one works with what is decided by thymus, the gland. through the beta B12 or what you call gamma radiation, which comes through the food you eat. So doesn't matter what food you eat, the gland decides in what proportion what becomes. Very much like Eskimos, they only can eat, let's say, they don't have vegetation, they don't have cucumbers and tomatoes, but they still live and they eat a monotonous food more or less, and they've done it for thousands of years. But they are like you and me, they have everything, they're not short of any vitamins or whatever in a significant level. Because the parotid glands decides what that material they eat will convert to the material which is they needed, like the calcium and the rest. So these people who speak about they can live for decades and for years without any food, they change the rhythm of their breathing, and that change of rhythm allows the creation of the water in the lung and the change of the hydrogen into energy which is needed by the liver. So in fact, as I said, you and I go to McDonald's and take a burger. These people sit at the surface table of the universe. And they simply, by the air you and I breathe, they convert the same air through a special condition into energy and the liquid which the body needs. So they don't do anything magic. And this needs teaching and thoughts in a way, as I said in the talk yesterday. You can stay in deserts for hundreds of years without any food, because everything you need is within there. This is something which you go back in a larger scale. There has been again a misconception in the whole understanding of the creation of life on this planet. The life on this planet is exactly copy of the life as I explained in the lung of the man. Plasma comes from the sun. Gravitational magnetic field of the sun in respect to gravitational magnetic field of the earth at the position which is today, their interaction leads to what I call magnetic gravitational field or maggrav friction, which the part of this and part of the fields which are released by the sun leads to release of the plasma of nitrogen. This plasma, as it gets attracted by the earth, it changes from a plasma to gas and then to matter, and through rain falls back on earth as nitrogen. That's why always we get, wherever there is a rain, as I explained yesterday, you see so much green and growth, because through the rain we receive the plants, the earth receives the nitrogen which is come as a plasma conversion from the sun. Now the same process as it happens in the lung, that the carbon converts into the nitrogen converts into carbon and into oxygen, the same process happens in upper layers of the atmosphere. If you speak to cosmologists and people who are expert in the upper atmosphere, they tell you we see nitrogen and helium on the upper atmosphere of the earth, and through ionization of it you receive the hydrogen or create of the oxygen and the carbon. So there is no difference in the upper layer condition of this planet and the lung of the man. And when these materials come in the right combination, when the H2 and the C come together, you get the water, the moisture, what it comes as part of the rain. And if you get it the other way, you have the composition of the C, the carbon. In fact, what is important, and it's never understood by the world of science, is a very simple principle. Protein, as it is, carbon, nitrogen, hydrogen, and oxygen, is the creation of the upper atmosphere, creation of the atmosphere of this planet. When you mix the two material, which is the atmosphere, the carbon, oxygen, nitrogen, and hydrogen, with the matter component of this planet, which is the iron, calcium, and the rest of it, and you give it in the right condition, you create a dynamic condition with a different kind of salts for the four elements which were originally created out of nitrogen to come together as a molecule of amino acid. And then when this amino acid links itself with the matters of the physical part of this this planet, then you read this leads to creation of life, muscles. If it's a copper, the neural system and the rest of it. So the life, in fact, is separated in two parts. The living part, which is the amino acid, which is done by the gaseous part. And when the gaseous part and the matter part come in contact with each other, and they can link up as in a Ganser state, as you've seen in your salt water, when you have the gases in the room, in your lab. When you put a salt water and you create a nanomaterial, which is the copper coated, this leads to creation of the fat on the top layer. So now you understand how the life is created on this planet. The protein is created out of the gases which are on the top. When they come together in the conjunction with the salt and the water, they come to one, they can link as a plasma, and that plasma changes to matter, it becomes protein, amino acid. And then when amino acid links with the physical matter of this planet through the presence of the water that it keeps it dynamic, then it leads to the creation of life. And then in different combinations become intelligence when they add more. So the mystery of creation on this planet is solved.
So what about the creation of life on other planets? Would that be particular?
It's the same process. It's the same process.
Would that the atmospheres of whatever planet that the life comes from would determine, like what if there was no nitrogen in the atmosphere? It would have a different process.
If you change the nitrogen to potassium, you will get the same kind of life, but you get a green blood and green muscles. The color changes because of the gravitational magnetic field, the spectrum of the interaction. It's very much the red lights or the green lights. So you have a higher energy, and to the man's observation point of view, you see different things. If man learns this from his own life, you will understand very soon the way the plasma in your body is highly energetic and is transparent, with what we call lymph. You will see life in the same condition in different dimensions of the universe. So don't expect to see life with 2 fingers and what you call it 10 heads. Each and that when the gaseous section interacts with the physical matter section, what the condition of the gravitational magnetic field of the environment allows leads to creation of life. There is life on the moon created by the moon itself. There is life on Mars created by the condition on the Mars. There's nobody has planted it in there. When man manages to go in the inner sanctums of the Saturn in deep position, we will find life the same way, because it's pressure and temperature independent. It's in the Ganser state, as you've seen it. You produced it. Now the knowledge has gone further that we can speak clearly and openly that you understand. 5 months ago you could not discuss this, but now you made things, you see it. You all can produce as much food as you like within your body. And you find the people who do these kind of things, that they live off the, what do you call it, the energy of the air of the atmosphere, they cannot divulge themselves because the balanced body finds a balance. And when it finds its balance, it could be a fat body or a slim body, but that's what it is. This is what we have found in our reactors here for the knowledge seekers. The gravitational magnetic field of the environment dictates how the rest of the reactors internally interact with each other. So there is no mystery in life, and there is no, that's why one of the reasons I said we start going more into depth in explaining the science. And that's why, and one of the reasons, the major reasons in part of this plan was to ask for the meeting of the world religious leaders, because we are taking the mystery out of this, abusing the name of God in what is a natural process. So when you can feed yourself, we can go around, instead of giving a cup of life, just teach the Africans how to breathe for 2 hours a day, and naturally their body, like, is not exclusivity. If you learn the process, you can stay alive anywhere in the universe. But you have to receive what your body is conditioned to and is built for. This is what I said in some talks before. Never enter another spaceship. This is one of the major reasons for it. The condition and the air or what they need to survive is different than yours. So when it goes enters your body, it creates a different condition, it can gain all sorts of problems. These are the, as I said, we can start going into depth of teachings and teaching properly that everybody understands. Then when you can feed yourself, when you can produce food without a cup, using the cup of life of your own lung, there is a big question, how many people will go to the church and pray to God? People pray to God when they have an empty stomach and pain and suffering. And so when you can teach a man to be, I wondered how many people will walk into different houses of different things. This is the biggest problem. We saw it in Austria when they found the priests abusing children. The church attendances went from 80% to 5%. It showed people don't need to believe in anything. They've been using the religion for abuse.
Do you
And
think? Do you think if people learned how to create their own food in their own lungs, they'll still want to go to McDonald's?
Yes, because it's a pleasure in chewing. We did that a few years ago.
That'll be the hard thing to cure. It'll be easy to teach them how to make their own food in their lungs, but to teach them how to stop the urge or the desire for food, that's another thing.
Yeah, but
what do you do with that with people that are in outer space, for example? And what if we don't have our regular foods that we as humans consider when they go comfort foods, or other types of
new
sensations?
McDonald's. He can go to McDonald's station in the space. No, but the thing is, you got to go back to the principle of the very first workshops. Now you've seen how you can. That's what I said in the aircraft, in the crafts of the future. We feed people through the environment. But you got to realize that the food you eat is just about 20% of the energy you use daily. Most of your energy comes through your lung conversion, and that's why I said we feed people through the atmosphere of the craft. It'll be absorbed.
So my question would be, how do you feed that?
No problem.
People's urge for the gratification of food. It's easy to get the energy, but there's certain gratification. That's not a problem.
Yes. Yeah, that's not a problem, because don't forget, you yourselves have done it and you just haven't noticed. You have managed to, by availability of the condition, convert the gas of CO2 into the GANs of CO2. So now you have a solid in a plasma. How would you like me to color this white material? In what taste you want for me to put to it?
Right.
Would you like it to be shape of a steak, or would you like it to be shape of a banana and taste like banana and smell like banana? For you to smell is a very simple process to do with your front of your face. There is a spot that decides what the smell you have. So I give you the smell of banana, you will taste the banana, and that'll be it. But it's the same CO2.
That's true. And the other aspect about it is, I noticed for myself when I fasted for 10 days a few times in my life, at the end of that period of fasting, I had more energy than I've had at any other period in my life. I was able to run and swim and do all kinds of things for a longer period than I could normally. And I realized then that if I felt that good and was receiving that energy more directly, then I wouldn't need the food, because the food would be looked at more as a burden that's kind of drags you down into a lower level than you'd like to operate at. So I could see in space, for example, getting into a higher energy level of operation where food wouldn't be necessary. It might be looked at as a downside. Maybe you take a vacation and have some food for a while, and go and take it easy or something, have a break and have some food, and that'll drag you down and calm you down a little bit, or make it easier somehow. but maybe it's preferable to be in that higher energy level. Is there something to that idea?
If you go back to the Keshe Foundation Space SSI, in that, when we offered space travel, we said in these crafts we will not carry any food. Now you understand the reason. If it's about 4 or 5 years ago when we put the SSI on the internet, and people could book, and we said, they said, oh, stupid, you cannot carry. Now, after 5 years, we can scientifically explain why and how it's done. You can produce any material. You do the same thing if you want to produce, what do you call it, solid materials in your body. You can concentrate, and in a way, stop me building a reactor where you have a damage to cartilage. If you can correct your control, you can allow your body, according to what order you issue, to repair where you want it to repair. But that needs a lot of self-control and a lot of teachings to understand what is done. This is why some people, as I said before, have a cancer and they say, oh, I ate carrots and my cancer disappeared. Then everybody eats carrots and nothing happens. It had nothing to do with carrots. It's a condition where you created that the energy was enough to change the gravitational magnetic field of the information which comes from thymus, which orders the solidification of the matter. So in that carrot could have been fertilizers which had carried that information, or due to stress you suddenly find out that your thymus. All the solidification, like with cancer, and anywhere that the different thickness and the texture are decided by the thymus, and in the order of the thymus to the to lymph glands. How much energy you put into it, it makes it softer. If thymus sends not enough information and reduce the amount of the cesium for cutting, then it becomes harder. So in a simple process, if you understood what I said in the last 2 sentences, now you understand how we say we can eradicate cancer in no time. Because the cancer as a solid material is totally controlled in the operation of the thymus gland and the lymph gland. And this is what I say, I refuse to accept any volunteers which their lymph glands have been removed, because how can you control the feeding when you take the kitchen away? So the kitchens are the lymph glands that are located around the body. When you have a 10-story block with 200 houses, you don't build one kitchen in the basement, huh? Every house has its own kitchen and it can feed its occupants. The body has done the same, has opened lymph gland nodes as a kitchen. And their order and how they do it and what goes in what thickness is ordered by the amount of the gamma radiation which is released by thymus. So there is no mystery in how you can change a solid tumor back to a liquid and disappearing in the body. The knowledge in medical aspects of the life on this planet is so huge in the Foundation that if I release it in one go, half of the doctors will commit suicide. There is no job for them. There will be more unemployed doctors on the road than actually any uneducated man. Because you have to understand the process and the structure. It's very simple. You eat B12. The B12 deposits itself, because it's a gamma source, it's a knife of the body, partially in the limbs and partially in the thymus. And then the order. You got to look at the structure of the position of the glands in the body. Why your thyroid is just under your throat and you have the thymus immediately underneath of it. One sees, one decides, one is needed, one adjusts to what is being received, ready to be distributed and cut to what it needs. So the thymus decides how gelish and how thick or liquid will be the muscle, then becomes a tissue of your heart, or becomes a tissue of the muscle of your arm. This is what the world of science haven't ever understood, and it's gone down the same, making more tablets and tablets and seeing a lot of side effects because you put more different energies in different part of the body. But if doctors like Dr. Elia understand this very clearly because of their knowledge background, you can reverse any cancer within hours. And this knowledge sits with us in the foundation. And if people say, "Why you don't use it?" I'm still alive. And the people there in a space, I cannot, as I said, take all the pharmaceutical and doctors with us. But if you understand the process, you change the process and the condition. No one needs to go sleep in hunger. In fact, the cup of life we give you, which you start developing, it creates a plasma at the level that can be absorbed by the lymph. There is no nitrogen, there is no, what do you call it, vitamin B or vitamin C or whatever in it. That cup of life is very much the Eskimo, which is only the polar bear or a salmon. There is no vegetables, there is nothing else. But the energy as it absorbed, it converts by the order of the thymus and parathyroid glands to what is needed around the body. This is the secrets of the creation. This is why the man does not need no man to tell him what in profit, and he's in sin if he doesn't pray through the channel. They said so. The sin is in putting the man in the wrong way to abuse the man. And now we start opening the books. Once now that we start opening the books of the medical aspects and health aspects and the biological aspects, puts shiver around the back of a lot of people how much abuse the whole thing. And as I said 2 weeks ago, we start opening the books now. And today is a very good example, and there is no coincidence. There is a reason why we had Guru Mahan here that I could explain to him in a basic way. I had Elia at the same time that I could explain the medical side and how we look at it. Then the talk yesterday and today, because now we start opening. Up to now, all the interest was, can we have a free energy? Can we have a plasma to go to Moon and the Mars? But if you go to the Moon and Mars and you don't know how to feed yourself, you're a dead man. Now we've been through it, all the initial excitement of doing things is maturing to a fruitful way of doing things. In the coming weeks, as I explained to the knowledge seekers, we start teaching you how to do transportation without actually moving around. Through using your own reactors. You already have all the facilities with you to do it. This teletransportation or going back to the future and this rubbish doesn't exist. It will teach you how to create the field box that you can move in 0 time. This is not a fairy tale, this is what sits there. Now we even have set the structure in the lab to be able to do it. But we have to go a step at a time, otherwise we become magicians and the science loses its effect. Next question.
I think we'll probably start wrapping things up here quite soon. Is there any last minute questions?
I got another question.
Okay.
I started that process of not eating food and everything a while back, and I noticed that I only sleep about half the time now. What's the reason for that? And then also maybe next time in the next workshop, can you explain the relations of the different sleep states and the mind and what their purposes are for?
The sleep state is a physical part of the body. It's got nothing to do with the real part of the existence.
But why do you have different stages though?
Because you need to repair, you need to service, more or less. It's a service time. And even the sleeping pattern, which is more disturbed than before, we used to use, I showed this morning to the knowledge seekers. One of the reasons we used to sleep, and we always sleep, was on the floor, not on these electronic mattresses with all the springs in, and we find more diseases. When we sleep, or most of us, when you sleep on the floor, on the ground, you absorb the same situation. When the light is not there and the fields come, and fine absorbs a lot of the body, takes a lot of energy through the field which is coming from the ground, like your day and night solar panels. the sleep comes, or we came to the habit of to sleep, that was the time we could become connected with the earth and absorb the fields to balance ourselves. And the air you breathe when you're lying down is totally different than the air when you're standing up. As I explained to you, as you change the rhythm of your breathing, you absorb different energies. You absorb different energies when you're lying down from the fields of the earth which are coming up. And this habit has changed, and in so many ways it become part of our DNA to take. I sleep 3 to 4 hours a night. That's the maximum I need. But I find out when I go into camping or when I go on a holiday somewhere where I have to sleep on the mattress on the ground, I sleep up to 10 to 12 hours. And that happens all the time, because it means I need the energy which is coming from the earth. Now we sleep on all these fancy mattresses with everything else on it. It creates all sorts of disbalance. It's to do with the way we need to restore energy back into balance in the body. And this has partially operated through the different section, the emotional part, and as physical part has nothing to do with the emotional part, even though they're in the same house. A dog and a man, just because they live in the same house doesn't mean they're the same. Dog has his job and the body has a job. Man has his job. Man is the emotional part and the dog is the physical part. But when your physical part is in the process of the repair, the emotional part never sleeps, because it's active and it cooperates and it works with different part of the brain. So you say, I remember a dream, I had a dream, this and that. This is part of the emotional part which finds connection with the physical part in the time of the, what do you call it, recharging or resting of the body. This, what dream, and that's why you, for example, as I said, you dream about your brother and the next morning he's in front of your house from Canada. Because the soul, the emotional part never sleeps and is in touch with the other souls, with other centers of the energy and information and emotion. So that conversion, that message is so strong that you pick it up, and it just happens to link to the physical part, and then, but you remember it in the memory part of the physical part, and then, oh, I had a dream about you and you're here. This is what we'll explain in the future, exactly how the body works. The emotional part is the size of a 5-cent coin, and it has nothing to do with the physical part of the body. But the physical part takes this 5-cent coin around to give it its energy which it needs to survive, and in turn the emotional side has taught the part of its structure to the physical part, what we call the neural system. One is a leech on top of the other, and in being a leech they share some environment together. This is what you call the neural system and the glands, which comes as a connection between the physical part and the emotional part.
There's a quick question regarding all this about what from Paul. What about sleeping underground in a cave or in a basement?
You don't go fat just because you sleep in 10 days underground and you absorb too much energy. Your body only takes what it needs from that environment. The very good question I want to ask, why some people are claustrophobic? You don't change anything. You can put a box, just give them emotional feeling that they're underground. They start breathing heavy and different, but they're actually on the same level. Why do people become claustrophobic? Then you understand you don't need a cave. Because we are afraid that we don't receive enough energy. It's just a seed of thought which we have. Because we see burying, being underground, as death at the end. And so we don't want to be in the position that we replicate the death. The psychological is nothing to it, but it manifests itself with the physical form. Any other question?
Yet the pharaoh's pyramids apparently would lie inside a sarcophagus in order to experience death and put themselves in that claustrophobic position deliberately to practice, perhaps.
You know, some people put their head in a black bag as well, huh? You know the story. Yeah. One of the member of parliaments of England died a few years ago of it.
Oh?
Yeah. Just go into the history of the British Parliament, you see it. One of the top-ranking member of parliament, ministerial level, I think, if I remember correctly. Or was it somebody else? They died with a black bag because they create a condition of changing the breathing, so they go into hallucination, and a condition of death, and they create a very high, very much like taking drugs.
High-risk occupation, it seems like. Probably not advisable to our listeners.
No, this is pretty much...
Mr. Keshe said, put a black bag over your head, and I can hear it now, right?
No, it's
Don't
done,
do that, everybody.
Don't do that. No. But you said about them going in the coffin, yeah?
Yeah, well, that was the idea,
some people, that's why some people put their head in the
recreate that
black.
experience so that you would be more prepared for it when it actually did take place.
Yeah, and then when you get to that high, it gives you high enough that you go too high, the fear takes over, and you have a different experience.
Yes.
I can give you a lot of examples like this because we looked at a lot of them. You got to look at where the fears come from. The fears come through this more or less fear of not being able, in most of cases, keeping the connection between the physical and the emotional part. That's what the definition of the fear comes to the end. Why you're afraid of height? No, because you feel you die and then there'll be a separation between the two. Fear.
Unable to see my hand in front of my face, and I realized how alone one can be in that circumstance, and how that fear factor comes up.
One of the things you see in the fear factor with the physical and emotion is we saw in the case of the coma in Belgium a few years ago, when this was something totally unexpected and was the last thing in mind would ever come true, is when we brought the physical back to emotional in Belgium. When the girl opened her eyes, emotionally she was present, but physically, because the body was in a lying state for nearly 3 months, she could not instruct her arms and legs to move as your conscious become wake up. It created a fear, and she went back into a deep shock. And it took us nearly a week to trying to explain to her there is nothing wrong, you've been in coma, it takes time, you'll get your arms and legs back, to get her confidence. I've seen this firsthand. This is one of the things when I teach doctors or I train doctors to handle coma, because I don't know if you know it or not, we have a number of cases of coma has been offered to the foundation in past weeks to bring this into an end. We have offer of a number of cases around the world. One of the first thing I tell the doctors or people who are trying to teach or whatever is that you cover the face, that the face cannot see the body. Very much like, when you have a dog, they give you like a hood around his face that he cannot lick his wound. We put the body in the same condition, that the shock of not being able to see the physicality from the emotion part does not separate the two parts and gives you what you call the emotional shock. So you talk to them, the rest of the body is there till gradually you explain to them it takes time to get the physicality back. And the girl is still alive in Belgium. Those who threatened to take us to court, we have a beautiful evidence, all the letters that they said the body is dead, but the body is still alive. And the Belgian authorities have spent thousands, hundreds of thousands evaluating her condition. But the mother doesn't tell them how she was brought back through Keshe Foundation technology when 3 doctors signed the death certificate. We're very open to this challenge regarding the health aspects, because then it puts a nail in the coffin of those people who goes around or hack our email and Gmails and write to the people and pretend to be the others. A lot of you will send me Gmails on the health, you get things. We get the parallel emails hacked to us, but we are aware of it, our security people watching it, how it comes. Those in Germany who are doing it, be warned, when we get to you, you have a lot to answer. Carry on.
Is there anything special you'd like to announce or to talk about that's coming up in the next while? Anything?
Next week we finish here. We'll see what comes up, or hopefully we have some news for you. If anything abnormal happens, because then we announce it through the normal channels of the Keshe Foundation thought groups and the knowledge seekers. But I explained to you, as of this past 24 hours, our space research is on a total shutdown in the way of releasing knowledge, information. We are on a preconditioned flight. If we achieve the flight, it's my responsibility to inform the Italian government, as I agreed with the authorities and the people who are between us. And my second responsibility is with my government, the Iranian government. And then we announce it. Because the technology is developed in Iran and is part of my agreement, and I use one of their systems, actually most of their systems in our system. And then is the condition between the Italian and Iranian government, how they announce it and how we'll announce it. But we are, as we see it, very close to the first lift by public and not by governments. That's why it's important.
Things have changed a little bit, because you were mentioning before putting everything. Someone made a comment on the live stream about how you're going to do a 24/7 video of everything that was going on in the lab. So obviously something's changed recently where there's more security over that situation, or more consideration.
We have to, because of the situations which is around the foundation. You understand that being a small foundation with having a huge number of followers around the world, people talk to their governments, people talk to other people, and we know even these workshops are listened by a number of world leaders. We monitor, we know which one of them are, we know when they even listen, even though they come on the different servers and gets downloaded for them by different people. We haven't become secretive, but we have to understand the chaos this position will create. If you can get a coconut and make 4 coconuts to fly you to New York, you can imagine how many Chinese will be in front of the White House in next week. The situation we tried to inform, but now we achieved the position. Our data on the computers and the data reading confirms we are very close to the left, and this will be shown public. It's our responsibility to do so, but within the limits and understanding of how we achieved it and how it will be done. It's not that we change, it's not the security, it's understanding the responsibility which we carry. I don't want to... I know we have a huge listeners in Africa. We have a huge listeners in South America, in Brazil and Argentina and the rest. I know the officials at the highest level in South America who listen to every program we record or whatever we release. So the potential is very much I was explaining to officials here last week. At the moment, for example, if you put produce, let's say, these cups of life in outside Shanghai. You get it to Shanghai port, documentation, on a boat, 6 to 8 weeks in Italy, customs a week before it gets to the hand of the shops you can buy. Let's say 8 weeks to 10 weeks. In releasing this technology the way where we sit now today, you manufacture in Shanghai, you GPS it to the destination in Italy, 20 minutes. This is what I informed the Americans. We fly over your territory without even you knowing, and the Russians confirmed that on the 5th of May, and they flight over the American military boat. So now, where does the security goes? And secondly, where do all the jobs go? From taking the truck to the port, the customs, the shippers, the boats, the shipping, and the customs on the other side, and the rest of it.
Well,
job implication and security is very huge.
Let me just interject briefly that the news item a couple of days ago is Amazon.com is getting, they're asking for permission from the US FAA air regulators, flight regulators, for drones. They want to use drones to deliver their parcels within a 30-mile radius of the warehouses. And they're into their 5th generation of drones. They can deliver a 20-kilogram package precisely to the door of anyone within this radius, and so on. And now there's a big conflict in the U.S. with the FAA and so on. But if this goes through, this will revolutionize the way things are delivered and take out many of those middlemen like you were just discussing. And the next step, of course, is the Keshe type technology, where it's greatly accelerated, but still with this precise delivery system.
You know, I've said, if in my interviews you go back, it's not something new. On the 25th of November, the day before the presentation in Eindhoven, when the Belgian security turned up in my lab, I opened the door of the lab and there was a green Mercedes parked outside in the garden. I said, this car is supposed to fly tomorrow in the presentation in Eindhoven. The officer looked at me and says, have you got a flying license? I said, no. He says, it stays on the ground. And I can release even emails with the magazine which organized that presentation in Eindhoven, that even we discussed where we're going to put the car and how we're going to demonstrate the flying position of it. So flying cars and delivery of this through nuclear material has been available to Keshe Foundation over 7 years. And the position comes back again into, they want to control Amazon. Who's going to control the people who are really in Amazon and they fly into New York? Through the coconut reactors. This is the biggest problem. The mayhem is what is to come. And now with you lot teaching and all these things on the internet, everybody has built a reactor. And the keys is ready to be released. The proposition is not that Amazon is trying to do this. The reactors were available to deliver, and Elector, our emails with Electro magazine who organized that presentation, they even asked us, the discussion was how we're going to bring the car on the back of a trailer because we couldn't fly it from what you call West Flanders to Eindhoven. And then at Eindhoven the car would have lifted from the, instead of driving it down the, what do you call it, the trailer, it will flow off, come off and lands on the side of the trailer. And the officer said to me, where is your fly? Do you have a flying assistant? It stays on the ground. It stayed on the ground for more than just a few more years. But we've seen what happened afterwards. The following week we announced that what they did to us in Belgium, that the car stays. The biggest spy plane drone was captured by the Iranians less than 8 days later to show the power of the technology. You stopped the car, but you couldn't stop the fastest plane, the spy plane in the world. We still captured it, sit down, brought down. And on its anniversary, we did the second one, exactly to the date. So the knowledge is not being there. It's how we allow it to be used and how the governments allow it to be used.
I think
this is not danger. No, let me tell you something. The danger is not to governments. The danger is to every individual civilian. If you get people, let's say, who we robbed over centuries out of Africa, and now they have the raw material and they can make their own reactors, and they're not in front of your door, every single house we want the fridge and the freezer, how are you going to behave? Or would you say, okay, we've stolen enough, let's share, open the fridge and save it, see whatever it is we eat together? This is where the change is going to come. This is where the danger is, not the drone. And we learned it from the Tesco. If you are familiar with the organization, a company called Tesco, which is one of the biggest retailers in England. It's like a Carrefour. And there's a Sainsbury. A few years ago, the government had, the British government rules had that you cannot open on Sundays. And the penalty was like $250 if you open, penalty. £250 was a lot of penalty for a shop to pay. But these supermarkets, they start opening on Sunday. They were taking £1 million in a day, and they were paying £250 penalty. It was fantastic. They opened all the shops all the time, every Sunday. And it got to the point that the rules and regulations went through the window. FDA and what do you call it, space or aircraft controlling, or the air passage controlling systems will have no say who's flying where anymore. That's why we gave the keys 2 years ago, to prepare for it. The governments ignored it, now they're coming to it. We brought the religious leaders to the meeting. It's the same way. They ignore it, there'll be no religion for them to protect, because people understand how they've been abused.
I think one thing that's happening right now is more extensive control systems because of the driverless cars that have just come into fashion lately. The new Google car, for example, a driverless car, has no steering wheel and no brake pedal. And they have a town already set up to practice driving these cars. So to me, this is the first step. Yesterday I read a news release that NASA is opening up their navigation system for the FAA to use. So it's so that drones and other types of aircraft can be better controlled, better kept track of through the NASA system, which is more precise. So to me, these are the things that have to take place before the Keshe technology can be fruitful, because we're not going to have people joyriding around with their saucers, or whatever,
Christmas.
You know, with the joystick or whatever.
Like Christmas.
So, Mr. Keshe, as a joke, you didn't even acknowledge how it is to fly a Coca-Cola bottle without insurance.
You got to speak to the Coca-Cola bottle company. I think it's unknown chartered, unknown territories. We got to let the governments to come into it and how they do it. The thing is, if they we know there is a huge pressure by certain governments to curtail the work of the foundation. We are fully aware of it. We even know what they're planning on my birthday in 2nd of August to what to do. So different governments are making different actions and steps to avoid or to stop this process, what others are trying to do. We know, for example, the choice is very limited. The choice is so limited that enough of you have downloaded enough knowledge and the patterns and enough of the websites. I recommend to all of you, whatever you have managed to download on Keshe Foundation workshops, other things, put it on a separate key which is not on the main computer, and hold it. That in time, if they bring one lot down, the others go. We most probably very soon will ask for the Keshe Foundation servers to be moved to different nations because of the governments, but at the same time, the development of the technology is so rapid that In 3 months, most of you know how to make nanomaterials, how to make GaNs, how to build a reactor, and very soon you all start flying these reactors and paying your ways to different ways of doing it. With the change has come, there is no way to stop it anymore. And that's thanks to the knowledge seekers, because up to now it was just me. Now I don't, if you see me, I don't even come on the forum anymore. Because the knowledge is spreading perfectly through the knowledge seekers and other people who are teaching each other. So there is no need to be afraid of what regulation is going to come. The regulation has come to fit everybody at the same time in the correct way. Up to now, the regulations was made to engage, but now the recommendation, the regulation will be made to accommodate, and it's a big difference. If, for example, one of the two nations decide to release the technology key points, it'll put an end to so many $1 million fighter planes which are supposed to be shown this week in, what do you call it, in Farnborough. There's a discussion if they're going to show this plane. This plane worth 1 cent. Because when you can fly a Keshe reactor with a car, whatever this plane can deliver, outmaneuvers it by 1 million times. I was looking at it because, you know, our story of being in Belgium and everything started with Farnborough exactly 10 years ago. The reason we brought the technology to Belgium and we got trapped by the more bunch of greedy idiots was because of the Farnborough. I was invited, as you know, to Farnborough Air Show by the Ministry of Defense of England for them to show me how powerful the military, the technology is, that they wanted to use my technology for it. That I went head on with Lockheed Martin, and then with the weapon strike technology, which we refused to hand over the technology. And we went to Belgium because we were invited there for evaluation, but we walked into a bigger trap. But that trap was good for humanity because it allowed us to mature. And then we came out to Italy, and that's where you sit. In Farnborough, all these military hardware sold in Farnborough. If and when we release the key, they become toys in the children's toy box. This is the biggest. They are trying to sell as much as they can, that they can cash up on whatever they invested in, because they know the time is over. For me, I can move in the lab with one stroke, you'll see the flight. But it's not for me to do, it's for knowledge seekers to understand what they do. I guide them and they are achieved where they are now. And I said to you earlier on, I congratulate them this morning what they achieved. Because now the knowledge is learned, is not gifted. When it's a gift, you don't know how the toy plays.
Oops, I think we lost you there, Mr. Keshe. Well, seem to have lost the audio from Spaceship Institute.
It's calling them back. I guess they don't like us talking about them.
I was just about to
They're back.
I was just about to thank you for all your work that you've done, and for me personally, I increased my knowledge and understanding so much in the last year and a half of these workshops and so on, that it's like you say, you've led us into this world of creating nanomaterials and the GaNs and the reactors in a whole different way. And it's an exciting new world with so many possibilities that it's hard to comprehend even the possibilities. You know, the numbers of possibilities, let alone just entering into one and specializing in it and becoming good at it and presenting that to the world as something that might be beneficial is an exciting new world that you've opened up to us here. So I thank you very much and I know many people feel that way.
You're welcome. So we do the next workshop here, the 20th, and hopefully we do the two after those in Bulgaria with the help of Bulgarian Keshe Foundation. So there we'll have some European scientists or Bulgarian scientists around the table that we can do the workshop. So it's
And
goodbye.
that'll be in August, you mean? We'll have a workshop next Thursday. That'll be the 24th, I guess. And,
yeah, and the following two will be done from Sofia.
Okay, that'd be the 31st and probably the 7th or whatever of August or something. Yeah. Okay, that's great to know.
No problem, but that will be organized with Elia. She'll organize that.
Right, great. Okay, I think that's it for tonight. Thank you, Mr. Keshe, and other folks there at the Institute. Thanks again to all our listeners and people that will listen to this for probably years to come. Okay.
Thank you very much. Goodbye from us.
Okay.
Goodbye.
Thank you, Mr. Keshe.
Bye.
Yeah. Thank you. Bye.